it. We always do.
Are you calling any items? Good job, fellas. Can you guys treat him a little bit better, please? You need to throw that there.
Well, we know what you're going to pull, so it's competitive. I know what Mrs. Cheers is going to pull. I know what they're going to pull. I tell Dr. Janning, this is what I think they're going to ask. These are the questions she's going to ask. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. What else do we need, right? So Dr. Janning, what am I going to be doing tomorrow at Castle Park? Right, I walk in and they're going to have... Yeah. Maybe at halftime or last.
Yes, I have to.
Frank, how did your meeting go? SEA. Good?
Just the one that we're just.
Okay, yeah, that one's 456.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
I'll wait for it to be retired.
You want some hard candy, anybody?
Yes, you know what? I might take it.
I think I gave you the program I had my notes in from that one.
You want to go to the aisle?
No, the one I mean the program from one of them.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
It had notes in it, huh? Names.
Gentlemen,
but
say
that's all
thank
right.
you.
Okay. Right. That I remember. I just have one more and two more. These
Go home at halftime.
Is it just me, or are these chairs really short?
Get some sleep.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's Dr. Janning.
All right, I think it's Frank's. Oh, she got the cinnamon ones. Huh. No, thanks. I just had to say that. Because you know I'm like that. Okay, were we all here? At this time, I would like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Clerk of the board, please call the roll again.
Solis,
Present.
Segura,
Present.
Pike,
Here.
Hall,
Yes?
Tarantino,
Here.
Janney,
Here.
Irizarry.
Here.
We will now hold a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our board member, our student board member. to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues: student expulsions, suspended expulsions, reinstatements, Education Code Section 48916 through 48918. Students were identified by ID number. Number 2, public employee evaluation, appointment, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. Number 3, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. And number 5, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took the following action: moved by Pike, seconded by Segura, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Pike, seconded by Segura, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Pike, seconded by Segura, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Tarantino, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Pike, seconded by Segura, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Solis, seconded by Pike, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the suspended expulsion of one student with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the appointment of Julio Alcala to principal, Chula Vista Middle School, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of Griselda Delgado to principal to principal middle school on special assignment, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of Julissa Gracias to principal, Southwest Middle School, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of William Walsh to principal, Castle Park Middle School, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of Louis Zumstein to principal, Hilltop Middle School, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of Thomas Gray to principal, Montgomery High School, with the vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of Thomas Rodrigo to principal, Southwest High School, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the transfer of Lee Romero to principal, Hilltop High School, with a vote of Hall yes, Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis to approve the transfer of Thomas Winters to Director of Human Resources with a vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis to approve the transfer of Ronald Lopez to Director of Special Projects with a vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Pike, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with a vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Pike, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with a vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Pike, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with a vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Pike, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with a vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for May 14th, 2018 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Solis, second by Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We are pleased to welcome the principal of Southwest High School, Mr. Lee Romero, who has a presentation for the board.
Thank you. Members of the board, superintendent, guests, my Southwest High fans here, teachers and students here. Hilltop High? Okay. Boy, this is awkward, huh? You know, I wanted to highlight, I got an opportunity to highlight this school, and this is such a fitting thing to do, you know, as one of my last main things I get to do for the school. It's a wonderful place. And so for this first part, I just want to show you some of the celebrations we had this year. Winning a CIF banner, not only in track, but also the first time ever we won a CIF banner in the sport of basketball. That was a huge thing. But yeah. But not only that, it's the first time we won a banner in swim, boys swim. So that was another amazing feat. And the coach is right up there, Coach Carson. He's very proud of it. But what I'm very excited, as if you see on the screen, is that we are the only school in this area that's going to be going up to the Unified Special Olympics to play soccer in July in Seattle. So that is the most, very proud of that. We have a couple pathways I just want to highlight very quickly here. We have the biomedical pathway. That's someone cutting up a little pig there. And we have the eco-engineering, as you guys know, the zero waste program, where we provide a lot of eggs. We have a farm on this school. We've done a lot of wonderful things, in addition to our culinary arts and our auto shop program. But what I do want to speak about is, and I highlighted our counselors here because they provided me some information, and they spoke to our staff the other day. And they highlighted some wonderful things that we all know at Southwest that's happening, but I wanted to make sure the board knows these wonderful things. But if we talk about the San Diego State students who are admitted to San Diego State this year there was a very big push to get our students to actually apply. And this year we had 30 more than we had last year, which is 136 of our seniors applied, which is a 36% well, it's from 27 to 36% of our seniors that are applying to San Diego State. And of that, we have 25 more than last year, from 48 to 73 students that have been accepted to San Diego State and are planning to go there. So I really want to thank our counselors for their work. But that's not all, because our counselors are oh, this slide's different. That's okay. We have one of the restorative programs here, one of the pilots at our school. And if you look at the slide there, you're going to see that there was a decrease in our suspensions from year before, which was 90 to this date, and we're at 76. And though that may not sound like a huge number, what I do want to tell you about the staff here is that this restorative approach, when it first came to our school, was something that we thought was a fix or a program that was going to be brought onto our school. It took us a while to figure out that it's not about that. It's about what happens every single day in the classroom. And the teachers at Southwest High School have bought into that. And they believe that they're the reasons of change and that they're the reasons to keep kids and to motivate kids to do well in school. So the restorative program at Southwest High is not going to stop. If you look at our staff survey, they want to still funnel funds to make sure that this continues at the pace that it's going. So we're doing a lot of great work at the restorative program here. The FAFSA rate I wanted to talk to you about is our counselors are very competitive, and they went up 22 points from last year, and they're the highest rating school of completed FAFSA. So we know, those of us who went to college, know that our kids that are not sure what they want to do at this time, and it's taken a while to change this culture here, but getting them to fill out a FAFSA form is going to give them that opportunity when they graduate from our school. They'll know that there's money out there to support them to go on to a university or go to Southwestern College. So we're very proud of that. We're at 70% of our seniors completed their FAFSA. We are the top school in the district, and we beat out Montgomery High School by 1 point, and I'm very proud of that. I like to win. Go ahead and clap. This last week, we brought 50 of our students who did not know where they're going. We took them in a bus, took them to Southwestern College. There, they took their assessment test, and they actually signed up to go to Southwestern College. 50 students. So we're really looking at this college-going culture, and it's making a difference here. I want to quickly point out that our A through G graduation rates, meeting UC and CSU requirements, our school has gone up in the last few years steadily. We used to be, we jumped up 2 years ago 16 points, and sometimes people would say, because principals are very competitive with each other. I don't know what it is, but they don't like me to beat them, but when they found out that we had a 16-point jump 2 years ago, they thought that was an anomaly, that is gonna, but it stayed. We went up another point this year, so we jumped 17 points, and right now, if you look at where we stand in the entire district, we're at 54% of our students are meeting the A through G requirements. And that's really huge, because a lot of people who don't understand or don't know Southwest High School don't realize that it's a great place to go. I want to end with this photo here. It's about a community of Southwest High School. There's a picture, kind of a funny picture with me and Bill Walsh. We took pride that we were part of this Southwest community, and we took pride in building that Southwest Middle, Southwest High as one community, and we do believe that. It's an amazing community. My middle son goes to Southwest High School, and I have him pictured with Joel Rodriguez, and he's one of our wonderful teachers. And it was because of Joel Rodriguez who encouraged my son to think about Monterey Bay, and not just San Diego State, but somewhere far from home, which hurts me because he's leaving me, and I don't like that. But he encouraged him to go off to Monterey Bay. But it's teachers like that we have at Southwest High School that have encouraged my son, because I'm a witness of this, that has encouraged him and has supported him and has supported his mom and dad in making sure that he's ready to go on to a four-year university. And I'm gonna end by saying that I've never, in my 30 years, worked with a more wonderful, caring staff, hardworking staff than I have at Southwest High School. The students here are amazing, and I'm going to miss them truly. But I will miss all of my teachers that were here, and thank you for being here. They're a wonderful place, and I welcome the challenge of my new school, but I will never forget Southwest High School, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. It is truly a special school, and the staff is wonderful, so thank you for highlighting all of the great things going on here. We are now would like to introduce the principal of Mar Vista Academy, Ms. Maria Jaramillo, who will begin the presentation on PK.
Good evening. Mine is just a really short introduction because the person that is important here that will be speaking is one of our parents. But my name is Maria Jaramillo, and I'm the principal at Mar Vista Academy. And we are here tonight because we want to make sure that you get the opportunity to hear about our program that was brought onto our campus. And this is not the first year that we have this program at our campus for our parents, but it is the first year that we graduate a large number. More than 50 parents participated in the morning and evening, and we graduated 43 parents, and most with perfect attendance. And Ms. Guadalupe Cosio is here tonight to speak to you about her experience going through the PK class.
My name is Guadalupe Cosio. I don't speak good English, so she's going to help me. Sorry. Mi experiencia pique fue lo más grande que yo pude haber tenido.
My experience with PK is the biggest experience I could ever have.
Porque soy abuelita criando 3 nietos. Su mamá falleció.
Because I'm a grandma raising 3 grandchildren because mom passed away.
Y viene otro niño mío a la middle school también. Ya va a salir uno, pero viene otro nieto a la middle school.
And I have also another one coming to the middle school, another child to middle school.
Y como no tengo mucha experiencia en tecnología, esto me ayudó mucho para saber de los grados que tiene que tener.
And because I don't know much about technology, this PK program helped me understand a little bit more about the grades that he should have.
Las calificaciones, el comportamiento, comunicación con el consejero.
Grades, behavior, communication with the counselor.
Porque mi nieto me decía que para qué venía, que él me podía decir todo.
Because my grandson used to tell me, Grandma, you don't have to go, I'll tell you everything.
Pero no es verdad. Tiene que tener los pasos para...
This is it. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. It's important that we hear from parents about what's working for them. So we thank you for that input. We will now have an update from our superintendent, Dr. Janney.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to our board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Romero, for the warm welcome, and thank your team for helping to set up. And we know how much time it takes to prepare to set up for a board meeting, so thank you very much. You did a great job, so thank you. So this is the time, let's give him a round of applause. This is the time of year when students are recognized with lots of awards and scholarships. Our students across the district receive millions of dollars of scholarships that support them in their post-secondary pursuits. Tonight, I'm just going to share a few examples, just so you know. The 31st Annual Creaser Foundation this year gave $6,000 to 3 students, and they are Anthony Colarusso from Eastlake High School. He's going to Harvard. Kevin Longoria, he's Hilltop High School. He's going to Stanford. And Matthew Hahn from Olympian, who's going to the University of Penn. So $6,000 each person. The 31st Annual Creaser Foundation Scholarship. So that's a great support to our students. But that's not all. F3, education. A lot of these I'm going to talk about are but $1,000 scholarships that our students have received from foundations or other groups. For example, F3 education gave a $1,000 scholarship to Jacqueline Estrada, who wrote an essay about why education is important. Mr. Segura sent me some information about 7 of our former SUHSD students have been accepted into the electrician apprenticeship program, which is completely covered at no cost, right, to the apprentice? Right, so free. CABE, South County chapter, also gives a $1,000 scholarship to one senior from every high school. The Community Health Group awarded 40,000 students, first time ever. They launched their scholarships this year to about 45 seniors in our district in each of our high schools. And they gave $500 to a lot of them, but 16 seniors received $1,500. And if you get a chance to read my message online in the next couple of days, I've listed all the students' names, but I'm not going to read their names tonight. The Karangalan scholarship, $1,000 scholarship, went to a couple of students, one from Bonita Vista High, one from Otay Ranch. The Ford Salute to Education Program awards $1,000 to 160 students countywide. And then one of those students, we had 13 of our seniors get that $1,000 award, but one of the students' name gets pulled out of a hat randomly, and Ford gives them a car. Well, it just so happened that one of our students, Stephanie Lopez from Sweetwater High School, was the name chosen out of the hat, and I don't know if you saw her on KUSI News, but she had to pick out which car. She picked a Mustang. It's beautiful. It's a white Mustang, and she's so excited. But this year they did something unusual, and they picked another name. So 2 students, one from Crawford, one from Sweetwater High School, got a car. And it's just pretty amazing. They were overwhelmed. So these are just a few of the many, many scholarships our students work hard to earn and win. We want to congratulate all of them. This is nothing. I mean, there are many, many, many students, like I said, millions of dollars. And it doesn't happen automatically. We want to thank our counselors who share those opportunities with our seniors, and they support them in completing their applications. A lot of times teachers do too, but our counselors really spend a lot of time making sure that our students have access to those opportunities. This past weekend, a couple of other events happened that also highlight students. The 15th annual Magkaisa Filipino American Student and Parent Conference was held, attracted 600 students at Olympian High School, 38 workshops on workforce readiness and Filipino heritage, and student performances. So that was one thing. Inaugural 2018 student conference and showcase on issues of personal, local, and global significance this past weekend, coordinated by Gina Batuoni and Kelly Leone. Over 300 students, 16 workshops, 60 displays of work. That was phenomenal. If you got a chance to be there, that was really incredible. So those are just some of the things that happen on a regular basis in our district. I also want to announce recognitions that have been awarded to staff over the past couple of weeks. So just last week, on May 7th, we recognized more than 500 employees, SUHSE employees, at 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45 years of service in Sweetwater, plus around 100 retirees. We also announced the teachers or employees of the year. For example, we have 6 teachers: Maria Gallagher from Chula, Sesha Haynes from Sweetwater, Katina Rondeau from Hilltop Learning Center, Gina Saclaus-Ocaro from Chula Middle, Tara Taylor from Eastlake Middle, and Louise Williamson from Hilltop High. We also had our SCGA Counselor of the Year, Nancy Nieto, our NAGE Employee of the Year, Victor Red, our Confidential Employee of the Year, Lagaya Quidlin, and we have 3 CSEA. We have 1 paraprofessional, Dorothy Pizarro, our OTBS, Jovel Rodriguez, and our Operations Support, Jeff Wilderson. And then our MASC Employee of the Year is Dr. Moises Aguirre. We also had 2 people, 1 parent, Algis Reynoso, acknowledged by the Leadership and Bioliteracy Award last week, and Tosa Rebecca Robinson. And then, sitting in the front row, Katrina Katowski was selected to serve on the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing Committee on Accreditation, which deals with the teacher and administrator credentialing program. So that's a big coup for her and our district. And then Karen Hernandez, the principal at Palomar, was chosen as the Region 1 Administrator of the Year for the California Continuation Education Association. And we have 2 other administrators that were acknowledged by AXA, which is the Association of California School Administrators, Region 18. Amy Hunt for Personnel Administrator of the Year, and as some of you know, Amy Hunt will be moving on. Her family is being transferred or moving to Utah, and so she'll be leaving us, sadly, around the beginning of June. And then finally, Molly Ravenscroft won the Continuation Education Options Administrator of the Year. And so that's not all. I have a few more I want you to listen to, okay? If you just bear with me, because there's just a lot of great things going on in the district. For the past 2 years, Sweetwater and Southwestern College, We've collaborated on our math and our ELA curriculum to better prepare our students for college when they're still in high school. So we've had a math team and an ELA team that met regularly to review transition data, to align curricula, to identify and address those obstacles to students' college success. And so much appreciation and thanks for their work. Some of us went to their presentation a couple of weeks ago. So there were co-leads for math. Esmeralda Orozco and Daniel Crook were the co-leads. We also had Christina Ada, Rachel Griggs-Hopkins, Kathleen Monaghan, Melody Morris, Randy Munch, Tracy Peterson, and Sesha Haynes for math. For our ELA team, it was led by Gina Vattuoni, and we also had Colleen Miller, Ed Gillette, Marco Gutierrez, Michelle Clark Cadwell, Tabitha Tony Bump, Rhea Walker did it last year, Karen Saiki last year, Pamela Britton, Richard Peterson, and Sandy Hodge. So we want to thank them as well. And then finally, I want to let you know that the San Diego State's Noyce Mathematics and Science Teaching Fellows, Master Teaching Fellows, also is recognizing some of our teachers, I think next week. And they are Ben Chan from Bonita, Colleen Cook-Salas from our Vista Academy, Rachel Meisner from Castle Park High, Esmeralda Orozco from Sioux High, and Jeff Rapp from Eastlake Middle. So why do I share scholarship information and staff recognitions? Why do I do that? Well, besides the fact that this is a time of year when we reflect and realize goals that have been accomplished, that we've hit our targets, that students and staff have made growth, it's really easy in our busy world to not take time to do exactly this, to reflect and recognize. And so we really have some remarkable students and extraordinary staff who teach, support, and mentor, as evidenced by all of these awards, recognitions, and acknowledgments of their outstanding work. And so I'm hoping that we can all take a moment of gratitude. And as you approach these final weeks, this coming week and the final weeks until the end of the year, I'm hoping that someone will take the time to acknowledge you and that we all can pay it forward. And so finally, like our new mission states, that we want to ensure a safe, inclusive, collaborative culture that empowers each student to actively engage in meaningful educational experience to pursue personal and academic success. It's always a treat to catch up with SUHSD students years after their high school graduation. And I had that opportunity this weekend at the San Diego State College of Education graduation, or commencement ceremony. I want to share about two alum in particular, Lindsay Goulet and Heriberto Vasquez. Both were compact scholars. Lindsay graduated from Sioux High, and Heriberto graduated from Montgomery High. Lindsay majored in science, Heriberto in a comparative literature film major. And both continued their education after they graduated from San Diego State. Lindsay completed her teaching credential and has returned to teach science at Chula Vista High School. Heriberto worked for SDSU's EOP program and mentored compact scholars. Both yesterday were conferred with a Master's of Arts degree at the 119th commencement ceremony for the College of Education. Lindsay was chosen as the outstanding student in her School of Teacher Education. That means all of her fellow teachers that were in that master's program chose her as the most outstanding student in that major. And she got to sit on the stage during the ceremony. And Heriberto, I saw him from afar. He waved because I knew him when I was a principal at Montgomery. He earned a master's degree in educational leadership, post-secondary educational leadership and student affairs, and now works at Grossmont College as an outreach coordinator. This is why we do what we do, and we do it best when we do it together. So I want to close today with the video that was produced by Omar De Leon that we showed at the employee recognition event last Monday. So it'll take about 4 minutes. Hit it. Thank you.
I was born into a family of teachers. My grandparents were rural school teachers in Mexico. They would travel on horseback to rural areas that had no teachers, and they would open up schools. And sometimes they were paid with chickens or fruit or a sack of beans. But teaching was their passion, and I remember being in classrooms as young as 3 years old, walking around with my ruler and telling kids love math. She made me realize I could do it, and that it wasn't that hard, and that I could be successful. And she made it fun and really cool.
I knew I wanted to work in special education, and I've been here for 13 years. I've been here ever since, and I absolutely love it. I've worked with the severe class, the moderate class, and now I'm in this class, and it's very gratifying, and I love doing this.
Three things: the love for learning, the hope to overcome poverty, and the desire to inspire others. Made me really become a teacher. I have babies. I call them a baby. And it's so stop. My students inspire me to come to school every day because they are so funny. My children are so funny. I always tell my husband and the people I know, going to school is like going to you don't know if you're going to a telenovela today or you're going to a comedy show.
The kids, when they respond, when you're able to recite that ritual with them, there's nothing more satisfying than knowing that the kids trust me and that I could help them get to where they need to be. It makes me happy. And seeing the steps that those kids make, the advances that they make, understanding the concepts, and knowing that I can help them understand those concepts, there's nothing more gratifying.
My dad inspired me to become a teacher. He was a teacher at Montgomery High School for over 30 years. He taught me the value of a teacher and what a teacher can bring to the students and the classroom. Knowing that the skills that I'm teaching them are not only going to help them in my computer science class, but they're going to help them in all other classes and in life. With problem solving, with critical thinking skills, all of those are so important to everything that they're going to do. I love walking out of my classroom at the end of the day knowing that I made a difference. So I get an expression of the students. I love that I am literally in charge of these kids' lives, these kids' futures, and I take that as a heavy and amazing responsibility every morning that I get to decide if I'm going to make these kids smile more or have a bad day. And so my goal every day is to make them smile more.
In terms of what motivated me to get into education, it really goes back to my family background. So my dad and my mom were immigrants from Mexico. They didn't have more than a middle school education, and one thing that they highly prioritized when we were coming up was public education, and the fact that was our way to improve our lot in life. And so for me, public education is more than a job, it's really common. It's how we can help the next generation of kids have that opportunity, regardless of where they come from. We're a large district, and there's a lot of need from a facility and operations perspective. So just being able to have a strategic mind to make sure that the decisions we make and the investments that we make are sound in order to make sure we maximize the effect in a positive way for all of our students and all of our staff.
When I first started, I think as a counselor, I didn't have the experience that some of the teachers wanted. When I first walked in, they said, "Oh, how could she be a counselor? She's never been a teacher before." That was the era back then when we had to get our teaching credentials. So I had my teaching credentials, but I know in my heart, I always wanted to be a counselor. It's the counselor role, I think, in the school side that helps the culture. In spite of everything that's going around them, I think that helps the school. And so that helps me do my best. And it also helps when you have a great group of people around you. If you have the students in your heart and you want best for them, your experiences will make up for that. And I think that's what helps.
And my teachers were my salvation. They were the most stable, kind, supportive force in my life, always. And so I always was close to my teachers and felt like I wanted to do what they do. I feel that sometimes when teachers say that we love our students, people on the outside think of that as something kind of mushy and sweet. But when I say that I love my students, I mean that it is a job. It is hard work. I have to not only be there for them and support them, but I also have to let them know when they're not living up to their potential. And I have to push them sometimes out of their comfort zone in order to do what I know they can do. You know, initially I didn't want to become an educator. I thought I would be an attorney, but I think it just really offered a balanced family life. I was a nanny while I was attending Holy Nazarene, and the mother rarely got time with her kids. I played with her kids while she worked long hours, so I thought that could be something. And during the summer times,
I would work for Department of Defense, running youth programs all over the world. And so it was just kind of like a natural step for me because God just kind of put it in my path that, okay, kids is who you're meant to work with. And I also really wanted to become that teacher that my brother never had. And I've been working with at-risk kids forever, it seems. I just want them to avoid that cycle of prison. And what inspires me is all of my students are not giving up. They face daily struggles just to get to school, some of them. And, you know, as a parent, we always want our children to do better than we did. And so I just couldn't treat these as they were my own. I would want that teacher to push me to excel and be their best. To all the teachers, the newest teachers in our district, I strongly encourage you to connect with a mentor, a teacher who's been doing this for a while, and get involved and learn from them, and possibly get involved in union activities. And we want to retain you, and we want to know what it is that you need, you know, to stay in this, because we know it can be difficult. But we do want to retain you, and just reach out. And I encourage all the other teachers that have been here for a while, reach out to those newest teachers and be that mentor that we so need. I'm thankful for all those that mentored me. And more than high school many years ago. It's a great profession to stay in. Don't give up.
Thank you, Dr. Janney, and thank you for that video. Very nice. And now we'll hear from our student board member, Mr. Irizarry.
Thank you. So just kind of some issues I wanted to bring up. The first one is that, like, so the other day, I wasn't feeling well in first period. I felt like I was about to throw up. I had these weird pains in my chest. I don't know what was going on. So my teacher decided to send me to the nurse. And I went over to the nurse, and it turns out that the nurse wasn't there. In fact, that she wouldn't come in until second period. Now, I'm not saying this is to, like, disrespect my nurse. She's a very great person. She's really helpful, really kind. But I just think there's some sort of safety risk there, and I'm not sure what the district can do to that. And it could vary for a school site, but still there's a safety risk when students are on campus and instruction is going on and a nurse or medical professional is not there to assist them and to determine whether they need to, you know, call a doctor or not. And I think that's just, like, really a concerning issue when you have students on campus in class, and despite the possibility of a medical emergency, there's simply no personnel available to help. And I had to come back after second period so the nurse can, you know, give me some medication, give me some Tums so that I felt better. And while my situation wasn't necessarily just me being sick, it could have been a lot more serious, and it could have been something where I need to send to the hospital, and without the proper medical professional there to help that, something dangerous or bad could possibly happen, if not with me, but with another student. So I think that, I'm not sure again what the board could do about this, but I do think that we should have nurses and medical professionals there on campus for every time that students are in class and during instruction. And we shouldn't have, you know, nurses coming in second period, you know, because that still poses a serious health and safety risk when you still have a whole hour of instruction where students are on campus and there's simply no medical personnel available. And the second major issue was that I've heard, and I don't know whether they decided on this or not, I don't think they have yet, but there's been rumors going around in my school that they want to consolidate, no, if anything, they want to get rid of the English 9 accelerated class entirely and simply put every single kid into regular English. And in my opinion, I think this is absolutely ridiculous. The whole rationale behind that is that they claim that the accelerated and regular classes are sort of separating students too much. But my answer to that is that that's kind of the point. Students are at different levels of learning at this point during their development. There are different levels of development. They need different levels of teaching. They can handle different levels of vigor. Someone who's incredibly accelerated shouldn't be thrown into a regular class and simply not have a curriculum that is up to his or her standard or level of vigor, and not have a curriculum that doesn't challenge them and continue to grow them so that they can learn. And the same goes the other way. A student in a regular class shouldn't be thrown into an accelerated class where it's too fast for them and they might struggle. So again, this is a sort of a campus site level decision, and I'm not sure what the district can do about this other than say mandating accelerated classes, but I just don't think that's really wise decision making on part of the school, because you're going to have students who are supposed to be accelerated going down to a level where they've already passed, and they're not going to be challenged, and they're not going to grow as students, and furthermore, they're not going to be accustomed to the rigor and preparation that's necessary for AP and IB level English that's going to happen in their junior and senior year. And then finally, now this kind of just came to me this morning, was so I'm taking health right now, it's a graduation requirement class. And I figured because I have an extra time slot available and I'm done with my VAPA credit, I can take a health course. So in my health class, we're starting our sexual education unit, and we're going over, STDs, pregnancy, how to go over, with safe sex. And my teacher was discussing about a student who was pregnant when she took her class as a senior, and my teacher recalled the student telling her that she wished she took the class a year earlier, which kind of begs the question, why not have health class be something not typically taken by juniors and seniors seeking to fulfill an elective slot for a graduation requirement, but in freshman year when it's especially important? The United States has probably one of the highest rates. Oh, thank you. The U.S. has one of the highest rates of teen pregnancies in the developed world, one of the highest rates of drug abuses in the developed world. Drug abuse is a big problem district-wide on multiple campuses. So I figured that having a health class in freshman year would prevent these people from being susceptible to all sorts of those exposures, to STDs, to pregnancy, to drugs at such a young age, so that they'll be educated about that throughout their high school experience, especially as you start going to parties, hanging out, that kind of stuff. I don't do that, but I'm just saying other people do. But, yes. And then another thing that kind of troubled me, and this is with sexual education, is that I remember when I was in 6th grade, I know our district does have a more comprehensive, modernized sex ed curriculum that I'm currently learning right now. But when I was in 6th grade, the only sex ed they ever taught us was called abstinence, which is don't have sex. And since when has telling teenagers not to have sex actually stopped them from having sex? I mean, since when has telling teenagers not to do anything actually stopped them from doing it? And this is especially worrying now with the Trump administration saying that they want to increase funds to abstinence-only sex education, which is a recipe for disaster, because that's how you create more teen pregnancies. That's how you spread STDs, because teenagers don't know how to have sex safely. And that's probably the main reason why we should have health courses taught to freshmen rather than seniors and juniors, because there is the point where they start becoming, say, sexually active, and that's when they really need to learn about the dangers of sex and how to do it safely, rather than just being told, hey, don't have sex. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arizari. Okay. Thank you. So now where am I? Oh. And now we will have the DLAC report. The board members all received a copy of the DLAC report. Are there any questions for the board? From the board, rather? No? And I don't believe the rep is here today, so we'll go on to the next item. And this is a point where we conduct a public hearing for the public to respond to the initial proposal from the National Association of Government Employees, the exclusive representative of the supervisors, chapters 12-050 bargaining unit, and accept the initial proposal from the NAGE bargaining unit to the district. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers, Madam President.
The public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion for the board agenda item D1?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have
Second.
a second? Motion by Mr. Segura, second by Mr. Solis. Call for the vote, please.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes,
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. This is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes to do so. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. Thank you for your cooperation. Do we have any speakers?
Yes. Jean Shavira?
Good evening, board and staff. I'm here today, and I'm sort of torn. My bargaining team has called for our members to come out and support because of the district's bargaining team telling them that there was zero money for wages and benefits for the next 2 years. Now, I like to think that what happened here was a failure to communicate and that this is a mistake. Just like there was a failure to communicate, I have two things I want to talk about. One is the zero for wages, and the other is the TOSAs. What has happened with the TOSAs, as most of you all know, is that they've been let go, and they, according to them, were taken by surprise. And again, I hope this is off the board. We all came to Sweetwater to fix Sweetwater, to make it a great place. When we talk about transparency and collaboration and cooperation, we really meant it. And I, as the president, want that to happen. I came, as you all know, as an activist and made certain changes here, and now as the president, I want, when I leave Sweetwater, when I leave my position, I want this to be a much better place than I came. It seems to me that we are at a crossroads right now, and we can, the teachers or my members can dig in right now, the district can dig in, and I don't see anything positive happening from that. I see us dividing and becoming adversarial roles between our members and our administration, and I want to avoid that at all costs. Now, when my TOSAs came to me, they brought, of course, potential violations to the contract. They told me that 35.1C is in violation or possible violation. 35.232 is in violation. We need to look at that. We need to work together to solve this where we are right now. I don't want to have an adversarial role with my board, my administration, and the staff here. I know all of you. Unlike my members, I know all of you because I work with you closely, and I know that you're all decent people. So I know that the problems that we're having right now can be solved and should be solved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Hoffman?
Good evening. Our bargaining team has been working collaboratively with the SEA bargaining team to negotiate wages and benefits for this past year. And they were very dismayed by what appeared to be just a flat-out zero benefits, zero increase in wages for this current year. And when I look at the video, when I think about all of the tremendous things that we're doing, I really feel a part of it, and I know that each and every counselor feels very much a part of it as well. Like the president of SEA, I have had an opportunity to get to know many of you, talked with virtually everyone in this room individually about a multitude of things concerning our students and concerning the members in the Sweetwater Counseling and Guidance Association. And to feel that there was this sort of line in the sand and that we were going to be in a situation where we could possibly move backwards into those old days where, you know, we didn't like each other very much. I don't want to see us go back there. So I want to try to figure out ways that we can work together and get through this, because I think that while we have accomplished so much, there is far more to do. And I know that I have made mistakes this first year of my presidency. I know that everything hasn't been perfect, but I'm looking forward to going next year as a, you know, renewed learning experience here. And I hope that I can build even, you know, more authentic, better relationships with everybody here. We want to work together, because without that, we can't help the students to the degree that we want to help them. So I want to ask you for your continued support, and I want to see if we can do something a little better at the bargaining table when we go back very shortly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Miranda Sutton. Miranda? Austin Hurst?
Good evening. I'm a science teacher at Rancho Del Rey Middle School, and I just want to give you kind of a perspective of a first-year teacher when I heard the news that 0% was going to be offered to us for the next 2 years. It's an honor to walk in every day and to, you know, get to see my students and impart knowledge. And it's a dream of mine to have become a teacher, and I worked really hard to get there. But just like many people, part of that journey was to go to school and have massive student loans. And so, you know, when it comes to hearing that there's pretty much nothing there, it's going to hurt me, because as a first-year teacher, I'm just trying to get my footing and, you know, pay rent, all that kind of stuff. So respectfully, I'd just like to bring up the fact that, you know, maybe reconsider the priority of where teachers are. We're the backbone, and because I am a science teacher, my students will be the first to tell you how important a backbone is. So just respectfully, I'd just like to bring that up, and thank you very much for your time.
Rebecca Robinson.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Robinson, and I'm here on behalf of our EL TOSA team, who are part of the sudden and recent reductions in TOSA staff at Curriculum and Instruction. All of our TOSAs, of course, truly believe that we are stronger and better together, but over the past 2 years, the departments that oversee EL services have been, we think, systematically dismantled to the point where we are now facing 0 EL TOSAs for our district. We're concerned, not for ourselves, but for our students, about the unintended consequences for our EL students that these last-minute restructuring plans will impose. We're going to have a little handout we can share with you that has a bunch of just off the cuff bullets of some of the unintended consequences, but we're concerned about a plan that goes from 6 English learner TOSAs to just 1.5 to serve our largest targeted subgroup, which is our English learner subgroup, which is 20% of our Sweetwater student population. And then we were notified, too, of this position elimination just 1 month before the end of the year, with no time to transition to whoever might take these seats or these positions, and we have no one to transition to because the positions were eliminated altogether. The district EL TOSAs are currently the only instructional support really in place for teachers. No site-level EL-specific support position is available at the site, so that's another area of concern. We're in the midst of, implementing so many plans like the English Learner Master Plan. This change in EL TOSAs is going to affect 5 chapters very substantially. The chapters on placement, on reclassification, professional development, and instructional programs, to name a few. We're intrinsic to the work, or the EL position is intrinsic to the work of that plan. We have been working with our DLAC and with our sites, and every time the call is a need for more support for teachers of ELs, not less. That's what our DLACs say. That's what our principals say. That's what equity walks reveal, that students and teachers are expressing a need for more instructional equity and more support. And then finally, we are just in the beginning stages of implementing a state mandate to have integrated and designated ELD. It's something that even CDE themselves and the county office haven't quite figured out exactly how to do, especially in the secondary. And we've been put to the task, and we're really close. And we have a rollout plan for next year, but now we won't be there to support that. If we build in ways to support our most fragile, we know we'll meet the needs of all. So we really want to focus on these kids, and we will rely on the union to ensure that the contract is followed, of course, and that no language is imposed that would be in violation of our contract during this transition. Go English learners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marco Amaral.
Check. Buenas tardes a todas y a todos. In Lakesh, you are my other me, I am your other you. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. I first want to say that I recognize your humanity, your spirit, and our common goals to provide the best public educational experience to the kids of the South Bay, to the kids of these borderlands. With that said, today we are not here to proclaim the district's treatment of our students, although that, at a later time, should come to be questioned. Today we are here due to the blatant disrespect you have shown your workers. My adult and teenage life has been marked by 2 phrases said by Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress, and power concedes nothing without a demand. So we are here today speaking truth to power and demanding to this power what is rightfully ours, nuestro dinero. When I came into the school district almost 4 years ago as a worker, because I'm a graduate of Mar Vista High School, proudly so, I was told by so many people here of the progressive nature of this board. Coming from Berkeley, I was pretty excited. And I have had some time to analyze the following statement. When you had such a low bar to pass with all those corruption scandals when I was in high school, any inclusion of some awesome buzzwords, the inviting of dynamic speakers, and the involvement of teachers in action research workshops makes y'all look like an extraordinary group of people. However, personally, I don't see that. Maybe it's a generational issue, but people in my age group are demanding more, and this new generation of teachers will do what we need to do in order to get the respect that all our colleagues deserve. I'm talking about the custodial workers. I'm talking about our paraprofessionals, our kitchen staff. We are transitioning from being a bread and butter union into a social justice union, a union dedicated to ending class inequities, a union that is here to claim, reclaim, and proclaim that we have a right to expect respect for our existence, or else you will find your resistance. So what do I wish from you? I wish for you all to be bolder. The history of this country has shown that only through massive and motivated struggle do we achieve significant strides. I wish that we would get emails from you telling us to call our representatives, demanding a state budget that meets the educational needs of all our kids. I wish to see you knocking on the doors of the most poorest families in your school district. I wish for you to go to Tijuana and meet the trans-border students in their homes down there. All I'm saying is I have high expectations of you all. I love you, every single one of you. We are in this together. But as my elected officials, I should have high expectations, the highest of expectations of you all. As a millennial, my generation, unlike any other, is burdened by the highest amount of college debt in U.S. history. We entered college. Thank you. As a millennial, my generation, unlike any other, is burdened by the highest amount of college debt in U.S. history. We entered college during the largest economic meltdown since the Great Depression. We entered into one of the worst job markets. We live in the third most expensive city in the country. Speaking to many of my colleagues of similar age and background, we are either several years away from reaching some form of stability, or we have to get into further debt against some post-degree units to reach a level of comfortability. Essentially, we are still far away from reaching some form of personal sustainability. You can help with this. Members of the board, I want to reassure you that you are my other me, and I am your other you. If I do harm to you, then I do harm to myself. And likewise, if you do harm to us, you are also doing harm to yourself. Make the right choice. Come back to the table and negotiate with us. As our president said, misunderstanding? We deserve this. Respect your workers. Respect us, because we love you, and we love our students, and we do this with all our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pablo Roncaroni.
Could you sit?
Thank you. I want to echo what our previous presenter said. I have a great deal of respect for this board. I've been working for the district for over 20 years, and I couldn't be prouder of where we are now. That said, 0% is not a negotiation. It is bad faith. I think that the negotiating team could not be operating on their own. I think the buck stops at your table. So whether it was a direct order, a direct suggestion, or whether they took this independently, it does behoove you to rectify the situation. I'm not known for long speeches, so I'll just end with one phrase. You cannot put students first and at the same time the teachers last. Thank you.
Gian Hani Marco? Oh, okay, that was him. Okay, thank you. Kathleen Shears?
The last board meeting I attended here in this gym lasted till 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember Miss Adato's husband calling her when he woke up in bed, and she wasn't there. And he called her and said, "Where are you? And don't tell me you're at a board meeting." Before I begin, please note, Ms. Michaels approached me before the meeting, advising me the item I'm about to speak on, or one of the items, was recommended by Moss Adams, our Propo auditor. Having said that, I have a concern regarding an agenda item on the upcoming audit subcommittee's meeting, in which the scope of future Propo audits will be limited by the removal of 3 objectives. Number 1, designing construction schedules, cash flow analysis, designing construction budget management, material specifications. Why would you want to limit a cash flow analysis? Eliminate design construction budget management. Material specs. You want to eliminate an audit of materials used in construction. Ms. Hall, Mr. Segura, you have only been in office for 4 years, and yet you will be asked to consider a rollback to fiscal accountability and transparency without replacing 3 items with others. That is key, Ms. Hall, Mr. Segura. The community will be watching to see if these 3 items of scope are replaced with other areas of scope that will provide fiscal integrity, accountability, and transparency. Failure to do so will signal a return to the poor practices of the old board. My last item for comment: why is the community just yesterday and today receiving notifications of this week's master plan meetings? Timely notification of meetings has been a constant bone of contention, and here we are again with little notice. I received calls today that some of the parents from Eastlake High and Eastlake Middle received notifications yesterday. I received a call this afternoon that Bonita Vista Middle parents received a Peach, I think it's Peachtree or Peach something or another, today. And those meetings, most of them were this week. Ms. Hall, you're scheduled for an audit subcommittee meeting, but I believe Montgomery is having their facilities subcommittee meeting, master plan, meeting tomorrow night. I would expect that the board members would want to be there to hear their constituents. Last but not least is an article in the Voice of San Diego. I am not going to go into it, but I just want to say that having my district referenced in that article was of major concern to me. And I did speak with Mr. Shavira before the meeting, and he assured me that this has nothing to do with the union contract, which I appreciated. But if it does have to do with legal counsel and our lack of following through what we need to do, that concerns me as a taxpayer. Thank you very much. And I would encourage all of you to read that article.
Thank you.
Nick Marinovich.
Good evening, President Hall, members of the board, Superintendent Janney. Just have a couple of items here, and I know, I'm beating the drums again for my mantra, which is effective bond oversight. A couple of things. I wanted to, Kathleen Shears mentioned the Audit and Finance Committee that's coming up. I think it's tomorrow. And, I want to compliment the district and the members. It is a long way from going to the Bonita High School library and trying to find Jim Cartmill and Arlie Ricasa hidden between the books to find the meeting. Okay, but I would suggest that that we try to, as much as possible, with our items that affect the Bond Oversight Committee, that those items like the performance audit changes be shared with the committee, even if it's just a quick verbal call in advance. Optics are kind of my message that I have to carry to the committee. The second thing is I talked to Janaea prior to the meeting, and it relates to a couple agenda items. Is getting these lists of consultants recompeted, so we're not seeing perhaps the same old consultants getting the same old contracts. And I think Janaea mentioned that that will be proceeding. So the point I want to make is that as the chair of the committee, Janaea and I will be, we'll have a good communication dialogue in this very important year. The final thing, and they're two interrelated items, and it's the thing I hate to bring up again, but the clock is ticking for June 30th, 2018, when the pumpkin comes out and there's no Bond Oversight Committee members, 3 of them on the committee. And as of the last, I think it was Thursday or Friday, I have not heard anything on the process. And I know I guess I'm putting you on the spot, but it's kind of a big deal with the committee, and hopefully cooler heads will prevail and realize what is in the best long-term interest of all involved, because the accountability aspect about you're getting a 55% bond, that's the quid pro quo on getting that. And you're going to need a 55% bond, and I think you're going to need the Bond Oversight Committee's support. And I really want to work together. I hate even to mention things that sound somewhat negative like this, because really it's the students that need us all for the moving forward and being accountable for those spending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miranda Sutton. There's no further speakers.
Miranda Sutton's not here? Okay, thank you. So now we will have the formation of the and approval of the consent agenda. Clerk of the board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, the following items are being pulled. F3 by Mr. Tarantino, F6 by staff and the public, G3 by staff, G4 by Mr. Tarantino, H1 by Mr. Tarantino, J1 by Mr. Tarantino, J2 by Mr. Tarantino, J3 by staff, M4 by the public, and N1 by Mr. Tarantino.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion by Pike, second by Mr. Segura. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Where am I now? Oh, God. Sorry, my papers got a little mixed up. So now we're going to have F3. No, D1.
We already did D1, ma'am.
D1, sorry. Don't hold it against me. Now we'll have a report on, well, Mr. Tarantino, you pulled this item, right? So this is about
Yes.
items requested by board members?
Yes, Madam President.
Thank you.
I have two requests. Via Friday update, I would like to have an update on the revision of the board policy dealing with booster clubs, where we are with that, and just a status report. I understand that there are committees that are working on it, and I just think it would be important to know where we are in that process. The second, Madam President, I would like you and Dr. Janney to consider the possibility of writing a thank you note to the Bonita Vista High students who found some money on the campus of Southwestern College and were honest enough to return it to the president's office for pickup.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. I think we can do that. All right, so now we'll move on to F6. This is about the advocacy plan for the district.
I have two public speakers.
Okay.
Kathleen Shears.
Yes, I had contacted Ms. Vicedo about this earlier today. By the way, she's always so helpful. I try not to speak when I don't have to. I just wanted to raise a couple concerns and questions because I'm really not understanding this. I am assuming that you're going to be doing educational issues and lobbying for educational issues. My concern is you might stray into tax issues, bond issues, state mandates regarding bonds and school boards, et cetera. And I would just like to caution you because I'm just asking right now, and I would hope that that does not happen with regards to changing any kind of the laws regarding bond monies, bond oversight committees, et cetera. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nick Marinovich.
Good evening again. This will prove, honest to God, I didn't talk to her about this at all, so what I'm going to say may conflict, so. No, actually, it doesn't. I wanted to talk to you, and this, I may be out of the swimming lane, but it is your advocacy program, and you are going to have a bond program on the ballot, and you need to, I believe, you need to show the public that you mean business about accountability. And I serve on that California League of Bond Oversight Committees, and I get a lot of phone calls like from other committees, like they're having problems. And a lot of the problems we're having here, or we're having in the past, is there's a couple of reform measures. If this board was serious about getting on a bandwagon with somebody, that would make life easier for everybody involved, and that is the selection process for members really shouldn't be with your board. It ought to be with the County Board of Education or something like that, independent of the actual board. I mean, when you think about it, the selection process, right now it's skewed where any district can select whoever they want on a committee, and they can select people who just does exactly what they want. And let me give you an example of that, and that's why this is really important. One of the school districts that I had contact is the El Camino School District up in LA County in the city of Pico Rivera. And I'm talking to a bond oversight member, and this relates to the legislative program, I asked them, they have a problem. They disbanded a committee and they got rid of them, and they basically stifled a committee. And I just at the end, I asked them, well, who's your bond program manager? Well, I guess I shouldn't mention the name, but it was the bond program manager that managed the program for Sweetwater. All right, where was the bond committee? Nobody pays attention to these committees. The second thing is I asked them, well, who's the attorney for the bond program? It was the one that was under Gondura. I mean, these things, this stuff can go on too easily around the state. And there's billions, not millions, billions of dollars at stake. And there could be millions of dollars at stake here in the future that you need this accountability so the public knows that they're not being ripped off. And I think your board ought to get behind something. And I could work through Dr. Aguirre, and I know it may be I'm just speaking to an audience of one here, but have some leadership. And Lorena Gonzalez is the best assembly member because she helped carry some past legislation on this through her committee. She would be the one that probably would have the wherewithal to do it. And I'm just saying, think about it at least. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
All right. I would like to explain a little bit about why we put this item on the agenda. I requested this of Dr. Janney so the board could have a discussion along with Dr. Janney and legal about how we approach advocacy at the state level with our legislators, because there is a lot of information, a lot of bills at many stages at the state legislature that will affect schools and districts in many different ways. This particular instance, I was contacted about AB 1951, which is currently on the table being considered. It's in committee right now at the state legislature, and it's about pupil assessments, and it's called the Pathways to College Act. That's how it's being named. And I was contacted as a board have accepted a protocol about how we do things. This was, however, on behalf of CSBA, and so it was more of the board rather than just the district being releasing this information. But my first point to the resolutions in support of or specific discussions around where we need to go, whether it's we do always advocate for additional funding. That's something that I think it's the norm now in California, where school boards and school administrators pretty much have to go every year and beg to have the money released to schools that will sufficiently support it. This year is no exception. The governor's budget sounds really robust, but in fact it's pretty much a bare bones budget for the next year and the years in the that we can foresee in the future. So I would like to talk about this and why I also had concerns. I brought it to Dr. Janney. I spoke I read the legislation, and it's really the concept is very good in that it's trying to narrow or expand what students can take for college instead of the smart balanced assessments, but the districts may be able to offer them in lieu of the smart balanced assessment. They would get to offer either the SAT or the ACT or similarly vetted assessment that's accepted as entrance for colleges. So that sounds really good because then students get to take an either or, they are not over tested. But in fact, looking at the bill, there's some real questions I have, because when it comes to how that's going to work, the state would have to develop two systems of administering those tests. And how do they do that? What is the timing of those sort of things? And when would we get the results to even be able to mark our own ability as a district in providing instruction to students? But actually, some of this, when it talks about how they're going to fund it, I don't see how the funding is really in here to support the bill. And that's just from my own experience when in my own personal experience from my work, knowing that how things actually get funded from the state and how that plays out. Because this one says it's going to be in a portion, the actual cost, but the lesser of. So they're not going to fund you the real cost. They're going to fund you a lesser amount. And what they're talking about in this bill doesn't even really address all the nuances that go into a district providing those particular tests. And there's some real expanded mandates in it. So that's why I went to the superintendent, right, and said I wanted to put a resolution about supporting this so that we could discuss it, but we realized in that discussion that we needed to do some pre-work before we would ever bring a resolution to support this bill in full. So I think, Dr. Janney, you probably have some insight in that and that you've discussed with staff you'd like to talk about.
So if you can look at the board agenda item, back in February, you adopted your governance handbook. And one of the goals this year is to develop an advocacy plan. And so we're just bringing this item forward for you to begin conversations around how do you want to go about doing that. It's up to you. It's your goal, the governance team's goal. But do you want to create a subcommittee of board members? Do you looking at developing to determine how you're going to develop your legislative platform? So that's the purpose of this item tonight, is to talk about, to give us direction on creating an advocacy plan to represent our district. So this is open for discussion at this point. It's not on the agenda.
Well, I think I'd like to know what CSBA, in terms of their ideas, if our delegates have attended the meetings, what kind of discussion in terms of what things are essential in an advocacy plan. I mean, I really don't know what's involved. I can think of a lot of topics that we need to advocate in behalf of to our legislature. One of them would definitely be adult school funding. I think the AEBG grant is deficient in terms of how they fund the adult school. I also think that their selection of course offerings doesn't fit every community's needs, and I think that needs to be left up to the different communities to decide which courses best meet the needs of their student population in the adult schools. That's definitely one of them. Like President Hall, you mentioned funding. Funding is always a big issue in terms of the amount of money that's delegated to K-14 education under Prop 98. But in terms of the specifics of what that plan, I mean, there are some really good ideas in here in terms of meeting with local legislators in their offices and inviting the legislators and other local officials to the district and leaving some kind of information piece with them when we'd go and visit. That's all. I like all of those. And perhaps the best way to deal with this would be to create an ad hoc committee of the board, because if I remember correctly from our workshops, ad hoc committees have a definite begin date and a definite end date, and they have a purpose, and then they're disbanded after that purpose is realized. So maybe that would be the way that we should go. But I don't have experience in creating an advocacy plan. I know what should be in it, but I don't know if that's the right thing.
If I may.
Mr. Solis?
Yes, so with regards to AB 1951 that came up, the idea was that Mr. Segura and myself join in a press release, but just the way we do things, I know it goes through the president. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't jump on it and I sent it. And I let CSB know that we go through the president. So I think this is a great idea to look into creating an ad hoc committee like that. We can all discuss what's being planned or what's being brought to us by CSBA or any other entity, and so we can all make a collective decision, and not just one or two board members jumping on board and then going with that. So I think what Mr. Tarantino brings up, I think it's a great idea. Come up with an ad hoc committee and see how we go from there.
Thank you. Mr. Segura?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with that I would be supportive of creating an ad hoc committee. In regards to our advocacy, I know there's a number of issues that, such as funding, that's always in order. But in a lot of the things that I've seen that CSBA put through or requests that we support, or usually a lot of them are pretty much something that we're going to want to support. But this one, and thank you for stating that to President Hall. Mr. Solis, I think it would be very helpful if we did have an ad hoc committee formed and that could discuss this amongst themselves in the community and come up with something that would work for us.
Okay. One of the things that I think that we have to, part of our legislative platform is what we as individual board members in the community communicating with our constituency would be part of it, just our normal process as board members, but to make sure it's aligned with the district, right, what we've agreed as the priorities. So I think part of that process for the committee would be to bring back to the board, how does this fit in with the district priorities? Mm-hmm. And I think also at what point certain legislation is at sometimes I don't think that this this particular bill that I brought as an example is really ready for us to say whether or not we support it. I think there's too much in it that is really, it's more of a cost to the district, and it could be a real burden in delivering the very thing that is supposed to benefit students. But so I think that's one way. The other thing is in some ways, I think the funding is just a given, that we as board members, if two of us were going to go meet with the legislator, that's a given. We're always going to be advocating for funding. I mean, I've already done that on behalf of the district, met with several different legislators about adult ed funding and about that decision making. We met 2 weeks ago with Dr. Shirley Weber, the Assemblywoman, and went over the very things that were covered by the adult ed director at his mission and vision statement, and how the funding really changed when it went from the ADA model to the ABG grant, where certain decisions are already made in the mandates under that grant. And as an analyst, I think it's always been given when something moves from a one type of funding to like a block grant, like this was sort of a block grant type model, you never get the kind of funding that really robustly supports that program. So it's one of those things that helping legislators, when they're starting to write this bill or in the middle of considering it in a committee to make a recommendation on it, if it's really not going to be a good bill for us, or if it's not written well, I think we have to be able to weigh in on it at that point. And board members, being that they're elected officials, have the platform a little differently than, say, school leadership, the cabinet members would. So I think it is really important that we do have an ad hoc committee and make plans to, number one, what is our legislative platform? What are the things that we see as the goals that we would like to have met when we meet with our legislators? What are the things that we need to advocate that are specific to our own school district and the needs of our school district? And we have to make them aware, because I think there's a lot of larger districts that get their attention quite easily, because, you know, like LA Unified is huge. Another one in our county is the second largest in the state. So those two districts alone probably take a lot of attention. But what we have is I think we have one of the largest populations of secondary schools, right? We have more students in our secondary district than maybe the same level of kids in other districts do. So we should be heard and we should have a voice, and I think that's important. Mr. Arizona?
I do want to ask about, I do support the idea of creating an ad hoc committee, but there are plenty of students who would absolutely love to have an opportunity to advocate to their state legislators on issues of importance. They can perhaps give firsthand accounts of what's going on in their district from the student perspective and say, I know infrastructure is a big problem in our district within a lot of school sites that can be resolved with some more funding from Sacramento. So they could say like, hey, look, our classroom is falling apart. I rolled my ankle on football practice. We need a new field. That kind of stuff that can give the firsthand accounts to our state legislatures and, ensure that the students' voices and activism matter. So my question is, like, how would we incorporate students with this? Would my successor as the next student board member be participating in this ad hoc committee? Or are we going to have elected or appoint different students to this ad hoc committee? Like, I think that this plan is solid, but I think if we add some form of student involvement and engagement, as well as, say, teacher involvement and engagement, we could really hit this out of the park.
It looks like this list that they have on this, some of the ideas around this would be inviting stakeholders to participate in lobbying efforts, and I think at that point, for sure, students should have a voice in that. But for the ad hoc committee, I'm not sure where we're at on
So
that.
just a point of clarification. So can the board, with this board item, the way it's written, determine who's on this ad hoc committee if they so choose tonight?
So I think that we have enough information here to lay out what the board is interested in doing. So I think they would make suggestions. Generally speaking, absent the board adopting a committee itself, it would normally be a superintendent appointed committee that you would make the determinations, and they can give as many suggestions into who you place on that committee. So I think the input on that would probably be the best process to go forward with, especially since it's a temporary committee that's limited in time and scope. So you bringing that forward is our best bet.
Not sure I get that, what you're saying. So are you saying that this is not a board committee? Because when you said that superintendent would appoint.
So there are multiple types of committees, obviously, one that you,
I can't
as,
hear you. I can't hear you.
so it's on. There are multiple types of committees, obviously, one of which you can move forward as a permanent, you can move forward with ad hoc. Generally speaking, when you're going to have a committee in short duration, it would be one that the superintendent sets up. It could still have board-appointed members. It's how it's designated. So the suggestion would be potentially that the superintendent put together a committee. It would have board members on it. You would make suggestions as to who else you want to sit on that committee as well. Otherwise, I mean, you could bring forward a committee actually and have the board vote on that as well. I mean, there are a number of different avenues. I think that however you give direction as a board, we can make it work based on how the board item was written.
Well, I think what we're saying is that we should establish a committee. So I would believe that the board is directing the superintendent to come back with the framework of that committee, and then at that time, board members that would want to be on that would be appointed by the board taking action at that time. So this is something to bring back at the next or the following board meeting.
You could do it that way.
Then, yeah.
Are you wanting to create an ad hoc committee of the board to create an advocacy plan that the district will follow, or are you wanting to create like a legislative subcommittee that will deal with legislative issues going forward?
I don't know.
That's the question.
Because that would be two different things in two different processes.
Okay, well,
Why is it two different? We could have one team with handling two things, couldn't we?
so
Committee that handles both.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but just for clarification. So an ad hoc is something that is just simply for like a temporary purpose, and then you have like your permanent board subcommittee. I'm sure we're going to be running into legislative issues in the future. You know, as long as we have a legislature, we're going to be petitioning them for funding, for lobbying efforts, for different policies that help us, our district, especially considering that we're in, you know, a unique location. We have a lot of trans-border and international students, and that has like, you know, certain ramifications with it that we need to make sure is represented up in Sacramento. So I would say, if anything, then, you know, if I'm getting this correct, that a permanent board committee might be a bit more helpful with this and to tackle those issues in the future.
I think what we're talking about right now is just to develop the platform for a current legislative platform. We're not talking about an ongoing committee at this point. This is just the framework that we're setting up, correct? Dr. Jenny? Is that what you envision?
So based upon what I've heard from the board members, looks like we're going to set up an ad hoc committee, and because it says to discuss, develop, and provide direction regarding creating an advocacy plan. So if it's the board's direction for us to set up an ad hoc committee, we can do so. And we can bring it back at the next board meeting or in 2 board meetings. That whole framework like we talked about.
Specifics to create an advocacy plan. Because I think what we advocate on in particular will change depending on what's before the legislator or what our needs are. So I don't think that's really what we're talking about. I think we're talking about the general approach, correct? All right. Does the board agree? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now we'll move on to the next item. What time is it?
We're ready for G3?
Yeah,
that what you
we're
said?
going to take a break now. 10 minutes, thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
these teachers have been waiting a long time. Sorry.
So now we will go with G3, pulled by staff.
Good evening, President Hall, fellow board members, Dr. Janney. Tonight, the team from Professional Growth and Induction are here to talk about the various programs and activities that have been part of our work throughout this year and last year, and they have a team of people here to present. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Illingworth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. So thank you so much for inviting us here tonight. We are always excited to talk about this work. I think I speak for Katrina and I when we say we have the coolest jobs in the world. We get to do a lot of fun stuff that nobody else gets to do, and we love it. So we are grateful to be here. And we're just going to share with you an update of what has gone on in professional growth this year. And we are really not going to share a lot of it. A lot of the people behind me are going to help us share the message because these are the participants in a lot of the programs that we have run this year. Our team is made up of Katrina and myself, a number of full-time teacher mentors in induction, a full-time counselor on special assignment, and some administrative support staff as well. And we have some amazing statistics. I'm not going to read you the statistics up there, but you're going to see evidence of all of these powerful numbers as you hear from us and from the teachers who are here with us tonight. We are proud of a number of the programs that we have the honor of leading here in the district. And so without further ado, I'm going to have Katrina come up to start with induction.
Thank you. Congratulations, Katrina.
Thank you.
Katrina.
Yeah, we're pretty much the rainbows and unicorns department, so it's wonderful. My pleasure and honor to speak with you this evening. Do I point at that thing? Does it matter? I bet the brain's over here. Oh, okay, right there. Well, teacher induction, as we know, is a process that all teachers must complete within their first 5 years of being issued a preliminary credential. You have chosen to invest in the future of the district by making teacher induction cost-free to our candidates, which is not only attracting the best new teachers to our district possible, but it's retaining them and training them into people who will work magic 30 years from now. So think about that. 30 times 200 times 250. Like, that's amazing. And it's because of your confidence in our program that I think we can get people started in the right direction. So I'm not going to talk too much. Other people get to do that job. So effective first instruction is what we're all about. That's what the district is about, per Dr. Janney's charge, toward mastery through a lens of equity. Effective first instruction isn't easy. If it were, everybody could do it. So this is how we conceptualize that goal. We have candidates at various stages of progress toward completing a 2-year, 24-month induction program. So the majority of our people right now are about to finish. We have our first 2-year cohort getting ready to complete our program, and I will make approximately 130 recommendations to the Committee on Accreditation through CTC in June. So that's a pretty sizable cohort for our first group. You can see there 123 are on track to completing, and then the other 3 groups are at different stages of the game. What we do here in Sweetwater is we welcome people in our embrace within 30 days of their hire, and we match them with a mentor who's either at their site, in their content area, or both. Unlike many induction programs, you don't have to be here in August in order to get the support that you need. And we think that's really helping too. The off-track candidate support requires agility and flexibility and accommodation, but I think it's worth our while. The key to our program is amazing mentors. That's basically the bottom line. We have incredibly talented, committed, experienced mentors that guide our new teachers, and I have some data on them coming up here. This is the team for next year. We have them grouped by zone because one of our fundamental challenges is the equity lens of our charge. And we want to make sure that kids on both sides of the freeway are exposed to the same types of expectations. We want teachers to consider themselves first Sweetwater teachers and second the property of any single school, because we think that whole village mentality is going to build our collective competence. So who are our mentors? The majority of them are classroom teachers. 47 of them are in the classroom teaching full-time, and they mentor up to 3 candidates on an extra duty basis. So the requirement is they spend 1 hour a week mentoring each candidate. And then we have 3 full-time mentors, and then we have 6 half-time mentors. And the half-time mentors have an interesting gig because their classroom is like a demo. It's like a daily opportunity for anybody to drop in and watch quality instruction happening. So they teach half-time, and then they support up to 10 candidates with the expectation that their classroom is kind of like a lab, that even on a bad day, you're going to see effective first instruction happening there. We selected the mentors so that their qualities align with candidate needs. That's how the team is composed. And one of the first things Amy told me when I came into this job was, okay, so when are you going to be in classrooms? And I said, well, obviously very soon, because that's your expectation. And so I have the good fortune of visiting all induction candidate classrooms every semester. So I visit once a semester, which means that I've watched most of our beginning teachers teach for 4 consecutive semesters. And I can tell you that that has been an amazing experience to watch these people evolve into incredibly competent, capable agents of change in our district. And you can see that, you know, these people are at all different classrooms. These are all the classrooms that I have visited and given feedback to candidates this semester. So the classrooms where the action is, classrooms where the work happens, and that's where the resources need to be. I offer a couple quotes, and I'm going to hand it over to candidates who are here. I think these kind of speak for themselves. And the next quote, I think, I can give you the little backstory behind this quote. I was observing this candidate at her school, and I hadn't arrived back at my desk before I received this email from her. And the email was very apologetic, and it was very full of comments like, I know that wasn't my best lesson, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. And, you know, my 3rd period class was actually a lot better than this one. So the teacher was very unsure about the quality of her instruction. At least it sounded like that to me. And so without further ado, I mean, when I responded to her, first of all, I kind of collected some resources, and I responded to her by saying, you have no idea what it looked like the first time I taught Romeo and Juliet. That was a long time ago. Billy survived somehow. Here are some resources from the last time I taught with Romeo and Juliet. Why are you using this text? What Common Core and California literacy standards are you attempting to accomplish by using this text? Is it working the way you want it to? And so we talked about a variety of things, and I sent her some sample prompts, and she said this at the end of this exchange, you know, I felt compelled to reach out to you instead of cowering in shame. Oh no, we don't want people to do that. But I think this is kind of a testimony to how seriously our new teachers take their job, how self-critical they are, and ultimately it causes me to celebrate the magic that happens in their classrooms because I remember how hard it was for me. And that was 27 years ago. I got my longevity recognition recently. 27 years ago. Wow, that's a long time. So without further ado, those of you who are still here, please make your way forward. I'm going to hand it over to them. I said, would you be willing to come? These are some of the finest candidates that I could pull off my roster. I asked them to respond to 2 questions when they spoke to you. The first question is, what is your dream for the Sweetwater District? And the second question is, what are you going to do to help realize that dream? So who wants to go first? You're going to state your name, your site, and then answer the questions and say whatever else you think these people ought to hear.
So my name is Kayla Cheers. I am a special education teacher at Sweetwater High School. I'm following in suit with the district's goal on pushing for more equitable situations for our marginalized students. Being a SPED teacher, I kind of work in that already, but I think policies and practices need to be reviewed to ensure that we are producing these environments for our kids.
Hi, my name is Ophelia Gonzalez. I'm also at Sweetwater High School. And my dream is for teachers to work collaboratively. Like, they need to work for the students within the students, within different content areas, like SPED teachers working with Gen Ed, with AP teachers, like they all can fit together. I'm also a mom, and I'm yet to find that teacher that's going to change my son's life, right? He's in 7th grade, and I know it's out there, right? Because I want education that is tailored to every student. So that's my dream.
Hello, my name is Rebecca De Leon, and I teach bilingual math and regular math. Throughout this process and these 2 years that I've been in the program, I've learned to collaborate with other teachers to help my students to advocate for themselves, to create those opportunities, to have them think that they can go to college, they can have a future, and they can close their achievement gap between those that are barely learning English with those that know English in the math classroom. So that's my goal.
Hello everyone, my name is Jesus Silva from Rancho del Rey. I teach 7th grade dual language math and regular 7th grade math. How I see the district in the future is to continue making an impact in our students, in our families, in our community, locally and at large. Right now I can think of one great example. Last week at Rancho del Rey, Oceanside School District came in and visited us to see how we run our dual language program. What is that telling us? What is that telling you? That we do great things at this district. So how can we continue doing that? By being active, by coming to these meetings, by asking you for respect, and just like we respect you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Edgar Tamayo. I'm also from Rancho del Rey Middle School. I teach U.S. history. I was told I'd have a minute, so I prepared some remarks. I always tell my students it's better to be over-prepared, so I have actual cards. I'll be reading off of them, if you don't mind. So the first question I was asked is, what is your dream for the future of SUHSD? And I think that public education is the foundation of our modern society because it equips students with the necessary skills to become active participants and contributors to the social fabric of this nation, which is so important now probably more than ever. Therefore, my dream for this district is that together through the collaborative efforts of our administrators, our teachers, and our students, we'll continue working and continue our good work to transform this district into a shining example of all that is good and true about American public education. I think this begins with continuing to trust and invest in our own foundations, our students and our teachers. Our future depends upon investing and strengthening our own base by providing our students and our teachers with all the resources they need to do the daily work that will continue to transform our district into a model within our region, our state, and I'm hopeful and optimistic of our country. So how do I plan on helping us realize this dream? I'm just one teacher, but I believe we're well on our way already as a district of achieving that goal through the great programs that I've seen in just a few years that I've been here, like the Compact for Success, the RISE program, and the teacher induction program that I'm so lucky to be a part of. So these are all testaments to what's possible when all the stakeholders in our district work in unison for the benefit of all of our students. So as someone who has the privilege of teaching American history, I believe I can contribute a small part to helping our district realize this dream by providing our students with the necessary civic literacy and reasoning skills that will enable them to become leaders within their own fields of study, their careers, and within their communities. And thanks to the guidance, the mentoring, and the professional development that I've received in the induction program, I'm confident that I and all those who will complete this program will be able to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying as long as you did
Yes.
to be part of that, so we could hear your message. Thank you.
Keep coming back.
So in addition to induction, we do some other things in professional growth. So I want to share with you some of the other things that we are responsible for. Title II is a budget that falls under our purview, and the Title II committee sat down last spring and looked at what the federal guidelines were for how we could use Title II funds, and one thing stood out really clearly to the committee: leadership development. We talked about developing leaders at the principal level and at the teacher level, and so the next two experiences that you're going to hear about come out of teacher leadership opportunities that we created through Title II funding from the committee, who really decided we want to put our money where our mouth is and build teacher leadership capacity. So the first thing that we offered was actually a teacher leadership academy. Teachers applied to be part of this, and we had 15 teachers who were part of the initial cohort. Amy Hunt, our soon departed Amy Hunt, and I co-facilitated this. This was a monthly meeting where teacher leaders came together to develop their facilitation skills. They went through some pretty tough scenarios and role playing. In fact, they did not enjoy some of them, but afterwards thanked us immensely for them. And I'm going to let you hear directly from the mouth of one of those teachers, Asaneth, who's going to share her experience in the TLA.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Jani. My name is Asaneth Foster, and I am a member of the Teacher Leadership Academy cohort. Thank you, Dr. Illingworth, for the invitation to speak with you tonight about the program, its benefits, and what I have learned. Here are a few of my greatest takeaways. So we started our first session with a block party. Well, actually, it was just us playing with Legos, but how fun is that? Yeah, no, not so much when you are given very little direction, you're given a task, and you are the least creative person in your group. That was me. No fun. But it was a great learning experience, and besides teaching us that we can have fun while learning, we learned about the value of self-awareness. I need specific directions. During another session, we talked about Mr. K. We won't call him difficult, but, well, you know him. It turns out that we've all had the pleasure of being in a PLC or two with him. And even though that he doesn't always get up on the right side of the bed on meeting days, we were given the tools to deal with the Mr. K's in our worlds. We learned that there are different types of conflict. There's even healthy conflict, and that all conflict can be managed given the right tools and the right approach. And what would a leadership academy be without learning about teamwork? We talked about the elements of a successful team and how important it is to have structure and content. We also discussed the value of norms and roles. Did you know that having norms and roles can make a meeting run so much smoother and have it be more productive? Of course you do. But some of our administrators haven't caught on yet. It's okay, we'll teach them. I realize I don't have much time to go into great detail about all the great things I've learned, but I can say that the experience has been amazing. From getting to learn from the dynamic duo of Amy's to meeting awesome teachers from other sites, this program is a perfect tool to help shape and sharpen the teachers that love being in the classroom, but still want to make a positive impact at their sites. Thank you for allowing this program to be in effect and for your time this evening.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I do have some other quotes from some of our members, and I think similar to what Katrina shared, these are really powerful. When a teacher ends a meeting by saying, "Believe it or not, I was almost brought to tears a couple of times during this evening's activities. I am exactly where I need to be at exactly the time that I need to be there. I am so honored and thankful to be part of this incredible opportunity." And another teacher who mentioned it was a safe, trusting, valuable environment for teachers. So that just gives me the chills, and we are grateful that teachers got something positive out of the experience. So that was our Teacher Leadership Academy, and that culminates tomorrow night. Amy and I will be wishing them all well in our last meeting tomorrow night. And now I'm going to call Mari up to join me. Another piece that our Title II committee felt was important was offering teacher leadership opportunities that came at smaller increments, and so we created teacher leadership book studies, and we held 4 of them throughout the year, and Mari's going to share with you about her experience.
Thank you. I'm Mari Venturino. I teach at Mar Vista Academy, and I was also part of the Teacher Leadership Academy, and both of these professional development opportunities really met me exactly where I was at. I felt sort of at a plateau in my own professional growth, and both of these provided me an in-district opportunity to learn and grow with other peers. And so all 4 books that we read were provided by with Title II funds, and so we read our books and showed up at the meetings and had varied kinds of conversations together. Some of them were in very small groups, some of them were in larger groups. And I really felt the opportunity to collaborate with teachers I didn't know at other sites, other content areas, and including some adult ed teachers. So we really had the opportunity to cross chat, and I felt like every time at those book studies, I was able to implement something new the next day in my classroom, as well as tweet out the opportunity and share and continue the conversation, not only in our Google Classroom group that we had, but also via Twitter. So thank you for this opportunity. It was one of my highlights being in Sweetwater. Thank you.
All right, so now I'm going to transition to the Aspiring Administrator Academy, and you've heard a lot about this academy, and I hope to see many of you at their graduation this Thursday night. As you know, our Aspiring Administrator Academy is a year-long apprenticeship that teachers apply to be part of, where they are supported by AP mentors throughout the year. So I have with me one of our teacher leaders and one of our AP mentors to share their experience. So Martha and Jason, come on down.
Good evening. I am both humbled and honored to speak at today's board meeting and share with you my experience with the Aspiring Administrator Academy. The Academy has been a year-long professional development where I have become more confident in my role as an administrator and attained not only a wealth of administrative knowledge and resources, but a great network of district leaders that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work with otherwise. The Academy gave me the opportunity to collaboratively interview and conduct a presentation on one of the 6 capsules, accumulate administrative experience by shadowing administrators throughout the district, and attain very much needed interview practice through our mock interviews. The Academy has provided invaluable leadership and administrative experience to the point where I feel 100% ready to take on that next step as a future administrator in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jason Josephat. I'm the assistant principal at Palomar High School. I wanted to say thank you for listening to what we have here in regards to the Aspiring Administrators Academy. Is really important, I felt, for myself to be a part of it because as an administrator who started 9 years ago, there wasn't anything like this around. You kind of were put in and then it was like, go for it and work with your colleagues and figure out what we have to do next. And so I think that it was being in this program is very important, and I wrote down 3 important aspects of the Aspiring Administrators Academy. First of all, it provided me with an opportunity to be a mentor, a teacher, if you will, again. And many of our administrators had that background, whether as a counselor, but in my case as a teacher, and it filled that void, you could say, helping aspiring administrators know the ins and outs of being an AP. Second, I was able to share and support continued learning with each other, with my colleagues, the other APs, as well as the aspiring administrators, with a common goal of supporting student success and school climate. And finally, it helped to continue build capacity, not only for the aspiring administrators, but for ourselves as well. So thank you for having us, giving us the opportunity to have the Aspiring Administrators Academy.
All right. And just in case you think I sit in my office and don't do anything else the rest of the time, I am also responsible for supporting all of our assistant principals with their professional growth. And so I do a number of things from monthly meetings with all assistant principals, monthly meetings with our new assistant principal cohort, learning and equity walks with cohorts of assistant principals, and site visits with all assistant principals, including monthly visits with every first-year AP. And I'm proud to say that after this morning, I just broke 425 classrooms that I visited this year on all those site visits. And thank you. I think I'm proud of that number as well, because that is job embedded professional development for assistant principals right there on the spot. Just like Katrina said, I did make it non-negotiable when I hired her. I said, you better get into classrooms. How are you going to do it? Because that is where the work is. And so you find that our offices are often empty because we are out at schools in those classrooms supporting teachers, and in my case, supporting the administrators in how they will support teachers. And if I couldn't do that, I couldn't do this job. That's one of my favorite parts of the job, is being out there on campuses. And we don't want to forget that we also have started the counselor induction program this year. Our counselor on special assignment, Liliana, is currently home with a newborn baby on maternity leave. Otherwise, she would be here. But before she left, and in her absence, I've been struggling to keep up with what she was doing. 12 mentor counselors who supported our year one new counselors in the induction program this spring. That didn't start until January of this year due to our negotiations, but they have completed their first semester, and we have feedback on how to tighten up the program for next year. And I had a phone conference with her, because she's even working when she's not working. She's ready to hit the ground running in July in supporting our induction program as it continues, because we also want to make sure that new counselors are supported with growth when they enter their profession. So with that, we thank you for your time, and if you have any questions for us, we're here.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you very much, though. It was excellent.
I have one before Mr. Tarantino. So how many pairs of shoes have you gone through? And how many cars? Or are you just about... Are they on their last leg with all the mileage you guys must put
Our
on
cars
your
are
car?
still running well. I was even in a boot and on crutches for 3 months.
I
so,
know, that's right.
It works. We get around.
Mr. Tarantino?
So I was just going to ask the teachers who are finishing the induction program, is there going to be a graduation type ceremony for them, or is tomorrow just the end and that's it?
Oh, the Teacher Leadership Academy or induction?
I'm talking about induction, the people who complete the induction program.
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, we're having a little shindig next week, Monday and Tuesday. Well, I'm calling it a shindig. They're calling it their last required presentation, called the Round Table. We have 2 of them to meet your scheduling convenience, Monday or Tuesday. Monday at Eastlake High, starting in the theater, 4 to 6, or Tuesday in the PDC, same time. They'll be presenting kind of the culminating work of their program. Year 2 candidates will be making an argument to a relevant, authentic audience of adults regarding action people should take to increase student learning. So that should be quite interesting, and you'll be able to hear from these amazing people, and there's actually more who are quite a bit like them. It's pretty astounding. I hope that's an answer to your question.
Thank you. Yes and no.
Well,
Is there like a ceremony? Is there? No, there's no.
Well, there's no handing over of, you know.
It's not like the thing you're going to have for the aspiring administrators on Thursday.
Well, we have a cast of 250. So we have I don't know, maybe we'll have to come up with something, you know. We're going to have cake, Frank. There's going to be cake, and there's going to be some food. I mean, we kind of think that's kind of the apex of it, right?
Hey, you've covered all the bases. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, how's that going to work? Okay, well, amazing work, and we thank you. You guys are blowing us away, but we really know that the future is in good hands with the support that you're getting as you learn your craft and hone it. So, Mr. Segura.
Thank you. I know everybody said, you know, congratulate you, and I really support this program, and I watched what you do, and sometimes I watch what you do on Twitter and all those sort of things, and that's great. And I think this is a really, really good program. I kind of equate it when you mentioned an apprenticeship that, you know, when you've gone to the schooling and, you know, you have to have the on-the-job training, and that is so awesome. And to have a mentor, we kind of do the same thing in my trade, where somebody who's earned their journeyman status or journey person status, that has to be changed. It needs to be journey person status. We have we have other veteran journey persons who will come over and they will meet with them and mentor them on the many things that they need to learn and to refine their skills and just to support them, really, maybe just to and all those sort of great things. But I really, really appreciate the work that is done in this and truly support all of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just can think you guys are doing great. So that's it. And thanks for staying. All right.
You get extra credit?
Yeah. You get extra credit. It's going on your permanent record. So that was G3. So now we're on to G4, the approve the Air Force Cyber Camp Memorandum of Understanding. Mr. Tarantino, you pulled this item?
Yeah, I just had a question about how many students are going to be participating and how are they chosen?
Good evening, board members. The cyber camp will approximately have about 180 students. We're looking at 6 sites. I can't confirm those sites right now. We're still negotiating those sites. And it's students who apply. So it's across the district and first come, first serve, about 180 students.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve item G4.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Segura, second by Board Member Solis. Call for the vote, please.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike? Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
H1 pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, how are the, it says, I really didn't understand in the analysis, and I'll read the part that I didn't understand. Registration is paid for each participant when they register. Parents receive notification from the hosting agency and are asked to apply by filling out the event application. Applications are available to parents online and with the agency and with special services. Applications are accepted until 20 spots are filled. To me, it seems like it's backwards, but I don't know. Can somebody explain the process? Dr. Fulcher.
I'd be happy to. And when you read it, it sounded confusing to me as well. So I just want to tell you I agree with that. This is a conference that has been in place for a number of years. As a matter of fact, at one point it was called the Bilingual Special Education Conference with Becky Sapien-Melchor, or I could have the names transposed, the last names transposed. It's let me kind of explain the process and see if that gets at your answers. When the date is set, the special education department informs the school psychologist. The school psychologists then have the responsibility to alert not just the school team but the parents at their respective sites. The information is also made available electronically, so parents can opt to fill out the application manually, or hard copies can be completed, as well as go online to fill those applications out as well. And as Dr. Alvarez said earlier, it's on a first-come, first-serve basis. So the first 20 parents who sign up are the ones who are elected to participate in this conference.
That does it. Thank you, Dr. Fulcher.
I have a question. Is there anybody else with a question, Mr. Solis? No? Do you have a list of are there repeat customers year to year, and how do you manage that?
Well, we do have a listing, a database of the parents who have registered year after year. When I took a look at the list, there's a few parents who have gone for several years in a row, but it has rotated for the most part. It's not being managed, just kind of monitored and observed. If you're getting at whether this is the most fair or equitable process, it probably isn't. It's one that certainly could stand some revisiting and maybe some revision so that we can make sure that parents from one part of the community or one school don't get an opportunity to go year after year. The one thing that changes, however, are the needs of students. So from year to year, the needs for that particular child, that parent's child, could change. So we don't want to say you can't go, but we want to make sure it's open to parents district-wide as well.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve H1.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Pike and a second by Mr. Solis. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
So now we have J1. Mr. Tarantino?
There's an adult school teacher, John Alvarado, who is also kind of working in tandem with this, my understanding is, based on his conversation with me. And I guess it's moving along, and we're going to take action on it. Is there any possibility that this could be transposed or involved in the 7-12 program, or is this age specific for only adults?
Well, thanks for the question. It's a good question. As a matter of fact, we've had conversations about expanding to the 7-12 programs. We have moved a little faster at this point than our 7-12 colleagues, but have every intent on sharing this information and having them be a part of this program in the out years.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? I'll entertain a motion to approve item J1.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Solis, a second by Mr. Segura. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Tarantino, I believe you pulled item J2.
Yeah, and again, I'm kind of confused on the funding. In terms of, it seems like there's going to be about $129,000 left over based on the income that the adult education program is going to get from WAII, and then the payment that the adult education program is going to invest in certified expenditures. So is that, what happens to the leftover money? Does it go back into the grant, or can it be used for other things?
So there shouldn't be any left over. The money should be allocated for, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And if for whatever reason there is still some confusion, I'll invite Dr. Burke to the podium to clarify. Some of the funding, and I think it's stipulated in the contract you have in front of you, will be for the salaries of our division employees, and that comes from the Department of Rehab. So they'll be paid out of the DOR, Department of Rehab, funding. We also have some AEBG support, and what that pays for is the hold on. Sorry. I'm going to back that up because I was about to go a different direction. So the ABG grant is not what I want to reference here. What I want to talk about is what that money pays for. I want to talk a little bit about we have some matching funds that need to be paid, and that's where some of the extra 120 that you've mentioned is coming from. And the benefits go to our students with severe or with special education needs. We have 2 classes that will be on campuses. They'll be providing intense focus. with a kind of an area of emphasis being around job acquisition. There's also a job coach that will be paid for as well that's not clearly marked there, and that's going to be around $120,000. And that person's going to be working with local industry on outreach, placement, and kind of performance-related issues. The Department of Rehab is, again, going to pay as well the salary of some of our students with disabilities who are working in the field. Okay. If those students, it's just like any other DOR grant, if those students are picked up for that position, the employee then takes over that salary. And I'm going to look at Ryan and see if I'm missing anything with regard to the reported difference in salary.
President Hall, Vice President Pike, Trustees, and Superintendent Janney. No, you're on the mark. It's the contribution from our division is our time. We're matching in kind with effort.
Okay. Thank you. That clarifies it.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on item J2? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item.
I'll make a motion to approve J2.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Segura, a second by Mr. Solis. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And now we have J3, which I believe is a presentation.
Yeah, while Ryan's at the mic, I want to thank him for saving me publicly, so appreciate that, Ryan. And you last received an update on the Adult Education Division a little over a year ago. It was right before our last division chief, our division director, retired. And there's been a lot of changes and adjustments since. So we thought it'd be a good time to bring forward to the board for your knowledge and awareness some of the things we're working on, as well as give you a little insight on some future endeavors. Dr. Burke has done a tremendous job. I know you've all visited his program individually and collectively. He's going to talk a little bit about some things he shared with you already, as well as some things you may be curious about as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce our Adult Ed Director, Dr. Ryan Burke.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. I've been here with Sweetwater for about 15, 16 months now, and it's a dream come true to be able to work for this board, for this cabinet, for this community that I live in, and that I care so much about. And yes, I concur with Dr. Fulcher that because we've always done it this way is not how I operate, and I think Erica could vouch for that. We're not beholden to the past. We have many charges in front of us in terms of transitioning our adult education program from where it is, and where it is still in some ways tied to where it's been, so we'll touch on that a little bit tonight, to where we need to be for our community. So we have a lot of work to do, but we have committed team members who are taking that work on. So I'd like to go on to the history of the division really quickly, just so you know a little bit about where the adult division.
The clicker there on the podium?
Yes.
Okay. You can use the arrow to change it. There you go.
Thank you. The history of the division, we've been around for a long time. 1933 is when the adult education program started with Sweetwater. So it's one of the earlier adult education programs in the state. The first one's from the 1850s up in San Francisco, but there weren't many in between 1850s and 1933. So we're one of the early adopters of adult education in our community. Perhaps logically so, one of the big things that they did in the early days was English English for the Foreign Born was the title. Yeah. You could see the poster there has the different courses we were offering. A couple of my favorites were volleyball and lemon packing, not picking, lemon packing. So that's from the era where the lemon industry was huge. Yeah. But you see, it was still CTE courses. If you look at the different courses, it's CTE, it's ESL, it's citizenship, and then there's some arts and sports that we don't carry these days. But we did in the Legacy area just 10 years ago. We carried yoga, physical education, and those types of things. The other campuses joined on over the years in between 1933 and 74, and the last campus that settled was the San Ysidro campus in 1996. Moving on to the division today, we are located at the 4 primary sites: Chula Vista Adult, San Ysidro Adult, National City Adult, and Montgomery Adult School. We also have 11 satellite campuses. Programs we offer are, as throughout our history, ESL, citizenship, CTE, adult basic education, so folks can get their high school diploma or their equivalency, and we also have parenting classes. Sweetwater's adult program, a few years ago, you may be aware, joined the South Bay Consortium. Okay, the state shifted how adult education works, and it's been a struggle in some ways around the state trying to figure out our footing, because we have K-12 adult education programs like ours, and then community college non-credit. And so they're more or less the same thing. They're very similar entities. And then you have the community college credit programs. So there is kind of a competing existence between the adult education public school and the community college non-credit. So the state has tasked us with joining together and stop competing with each other. How do we leverage our resources? How do we leverage our programs to meet the community need? They want us thinking like partners, and it's very natural and easy for us to do so at this point in time. I think there has been a little bit more of a competitive edge between the adult education program and Southwestern College's non-credit. In the year and change that I've been here, I've seen a lot of growth in terms of this partnership, looking to each other to try to fill each other's needs and fill the community needs. So really looking at each other collectively with Coronado as well, although that doesn't come into the mix as often in terms of meeting community needs. But working with them and recognizing that neither of our institutions can do it all. There's too much work to be done. So we can't be redundant, because we can't offer things that they're doing better, or they shouldn't offer things that we're doing better, and we should be pooling our resources to provide the best that we can. So you'll see where Sweetwater Adult is, you'll often find Southwestern College in partnerships. They've been coming to our meetings, even our PLC meetings with our teacher team meetings. They come and they participate, and we try to articulate and we try to make sure that we're meeting community need and working together to do so. Our demographics, in terms of just sheer numbers, historically, I've heard different numbers quoted for Sweetwater Adult Education for number of students enrolled, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, depending on the era that you're looking at. The numbers, those numbers are duplicated numbers. What I'm trying to figure out, and I want to be consistent in my time here, and I hope with your support I'm not going anywhere. So I hope to be here for a long time and be consistent. I think we need to talk about human beings. That's the number that I'm interested in. How many human beings are coming to our school? And right now, I don't know if it was ever 40,000, but I know it was more than it is now. What they've typically counted for enrollment was if a student was in 2 programs at once, they would count them in multiple programs. And many of our students do cross over programs during the course of a year, going from ESL to adult basic education, or adult basic or ESL into CTE. So it's the current, that's as an accurate number as you'll get, is that 7,865. I do think in years past the number was much larger, but perhaps not the 40,000 that sometimes gets mentioned. Community of need. Our community of need is established by the Southwestern College footprint, because we are their partner. Our adult education program covers that entire footprint. So here's some statistics based on the Southwestern College footprint and our footprint, so South Bay Consortium footprint. on the people who live on our territory. These are the people that we need to be finding and helping and doing everything we can for to provide the leg up and the opportunity to go get a living wage in San Diego. We provide programs that create that opportunity for people. You can go from not having a job to joining the welding class and having a welding job in literally, I mean, they're coming to our classes and plucking students out, pulling them out before they're even trained because they need them so bad down at NASCO and down on the shipyards. Staying with the program, many of the students stay with the welding program and continue getting that training even though they've already been hired because they want the expertise. They value our teachers and our program. And they're making over $100,000 a year within a couple years of being down in the yard. So these are the folks that we need to find. The folks in poverty, 30,000 people, illiterates, folks that could benefit from ESL. We need to do everything we can to support our community. And again, when you look at these numbers, you can tell that we can't do it alone. Southwestern College can't do it alone. We need to work together with them. And so at every chance we get, we're trying to connect and trying to help this group of people. This is a sense of urgency for me. This is the folks that we need to lie awake at night and worrying about. But we are having an influence. Just some numbers from last year. These are last year's numbers. We had 114 students earn their diploma through our program, 710 equivalencies, that's GED or HiSET, 790 CTE certifications last year, 310 American citizens. So they came to our program, prepped for their American citizenship exam with our teachers, and then passed the exam and earned their citizenship. This year we're looking at 500. So 500 new American citizens through the Sweetwater program is pretty awesome. We're pretty proud. And it's 6,767 ESL students last year. Staffing, just a general look who works in Sweetwater Adult. We have one director and 4 principals. We're looking at moving to a director and 3 principals next year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Classified staff members, we have 51, and you see the different titles there. Our office staff is, our offices are open from 8 in the morning, or 7:30 actually in the morning, and through 8:30, 9:15 at night, depending on the site. So we have a lot of office staff for the 4 sites. Counselors, we have 6.6, and teachers at about 129. Trustee Hall, President Hall, referred earlier to the changes that have come about in adult education, and I want to address them briefly. Adult education used to be funded through ADA, so the more students that were sitting in the chairs, the more dollars were brought into the district, and that money could be used to pay for the teachers. So if you could find a class that drew enough interest, you could sustain the class. Inevitably, you could open new classes based on that interest. Anytime you had more students than teachers, you can always add a teacher and continue to grow. So what happened over time is that our system became very large. 40,000 students or not, we had one of the largest adult programs in the state of California, and still do. And it was largely interest-based. So, we had all different kinds of aerobics, yoga, but we also still did those things that we do well today, such as the ESL and the high school diploma. But one of the things that came with this is there wasn't strong oversight either. It wasn't an outcome-oriented system. It was more just about how many people showed up, and you provide the education for the folks that show up. And then people got their grades or their certificates and moved on, and there wasn't a lot of accountability. When AEBG came about 4 years ago, the shift was there's been a kind of a hands-off era where there hasn't been a lot of accountability yet. They've had accountability looming in the distance, getting mentioned here and there, that ultimately there'll be performance-based funding, and that hasn't happened yet. And they haven't given us the exact formulas yet, but we understand that next year's data very well is supposed to influence the following year's funding. So it's time to start getting results, and the time to start changing, to start driving towards those results was really a few years ago. And in some ways, we're just making some of those shifts now. So but we need to make them fast, and we need to be really efficient and effective in those transitions. So as you see, what they're looking for now is completers. There's going to be accountability around people coming to our program and making their way through it successfully. And not just, you can't say, okay, we gave out a FIT award for coming to the aerobics class. It has to be tied to the accountability measures, and I'll show you what some of those are. But it's clear that the days of interest-based classes are gone. AEBG is a mission-driven block grant. They want to see us developing the workforce. So whether it's a high school diploma, whether it's a certification for something like welding, or whether it's improving English so that you can function better in the workplace, there are measurables that we will get ranked on, and that will be their outcome goals that we will have our funding determined by. Some of those things are improved literacy and basic skills, and that's measured by an assessment system. It's called CASAS. Completion of a high school diploma. The placement into jobs is the challenging one. Is because one of the things that we have to do is collect Social Security numbers to get credit for the jobs that we are creating and helping people connect people to. And so many of our students are reluctant to give a Social Security number at the time of enrollment. So then we're missing some of that data. So we have to change some of our systems on how we capture that information and surveying our students and creating relationships. We have to do things a little bit differently, a little bit more intentionally. And there's a lot of work, wages, or having a student transition into Southwestern College or another university. So we share this responsibility with all the consortia around the state. They want us to create seamless transitions, move the students through the programs, get the students from low levels of literacy through the adult education program and into Southwestern College quickly. Revenue versus expenditures is the biggest one, and I know this one has been brought to the attention of just about everybody I know on the board and on cabinet. We have multi-year projections indicating a $10 million shortfall over the next 5 years. So that's something that we need to mitigate and we need clarity on. And that number came from before a COLA was announced. We do have a COLA for 2019-2020, or 18-19, excuse me. And that's we haven't had a COLA for the adult education program since AEBG came around. So that's a huge deal that once you get a COLA, the thinking is that you're on the COLA train now, so that next year when there's a COLA, if it's not a zero COLA, we should be a part of that ongoing COLA. And that's the belief until it happens. It hasn't happened yet, but that's the belief that now we're in the annual talk for COLA. And there's also the opportunity to increase our funding by improving our performance. So through improved performance, we can also get increased funding, and I fully intend to take advantage of that. Expansion of services for students with disabilities, and I thank you sincerely for the vote that you just took. I don't know if you realize what a big deal that was. Hundreds of people will get jobs because of that 5-0 vote that you just took. We've been working hard to get that passed and through. And what it means is we're going to have teachers in the classroom supporting our students with disability. Right now, we don't have a program for students with disabilities. We have different supports that are in place when we find out. We don't always know because not every student says, hey, I have an IEP. I had an IEP in high school. I still want to get my services. But we, of course, will provide supports and services to anybody that needs it. But we don't always know. So we need to improve our systems for capturing that information and then providing support as well. And so to date, we don't really have anything institutional. We just have individual teachers making accommodations and modifications. This vote today brings in the funds that will allow us to have a genuine program. So I'm thrilled about that. It's a passion of mine. It's very important that we do this for our community. So thank you for your vote. And we do have a continuing need, though, that is not related to jobs. That workability program is all about work and wages and getting people employed. We have academic needs that we haven't been able to address yet. We haven't been hiring new staff generally because we have that revenue expenditure problem. But we need either credentialed teachers for our students with disabilities. We need a program. Our city needs a program. And whether that, or it could be students with rehabilitation master's degrees instead of a special education credential. So we've got to figure out when we're balancing our revenues and expenditures, we've got to do some difficult thinking and some hard work around making sure that we end up with a program for students with disabilities who are adults. A more robust one, I should say. Maintaining GI Bill approved classes. This is another challenge that it's one I face every day almost. We have a number of veterans, about 450 veterans in our program. Of that 7,800 or so students, or 450 of them are veterans. They're enrolled in CTE classes almost exclusively because those pay benefits. You can receive GI Bill benefits for being in a CTE course, just like you can if you enroll in a community college or a college course. A big difference is that in adult education, they judge it by clock hours, it's called, instead of credits. So a huge difference for GI Bill recipients is they can go to a program that's a non-credit adult education program for 10, 12 years and continue to receive monthly housing allowance benefits, whereas that same student, were they enrolled in Southwestern College, would burn through their benefits probably in 2.5, 3 years. So what happens is students, we have a disproportionate number of students who take advantage of the housing allowance, and rightfully so. They've earned it, they've served for it, and honestly, I learned the other day that many of our early GI Bill recipients paid for it. They used to have to pay $100 a month for about 10 months, I think, to get the benefits. So they're very attached to being able to exercise their benefits. How that it creates some level of struggle here in our adult education program because we have this pressure from the state saying we need everybody to get a job. Our veterans are typically, and if we had our veterans here to talk, they would share the same thing too. They're typically not out seeking employment. Many of them are disabled veterans. Many of them are retirement age, and they've passed their benefits on to family members, and so it might be a widow, or it might be a child that's coming and exercising the GI Bill benefits. It goes in opposition to AEBG. AEBG is telling us make sure everybody gets a job. The VA is also pressuring us to help veterans get jobs. They're suspending classes where veterans are not earning jobs out of the class. The VA is suspending the GI Bill approved classes from our program. We had 8 suspended last year. So those are 8 courses that our veterans can no longer take to receive their benefits. And they suspended the courses because the veterans did not receive jobs. So there's accountability pressure working against us. And in this case, it's a tough situation because it's working against us, it's working against our veterans. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the steps we've taken in just a few minutes when I get into some of our actions. Another challenge is our practice policies, materials, and culture. A lot of it remains from the legacy era, the time where it was how many seats can you get in the chairs to pay for the program. Many of we have still momentum from that era. I mean, that's how we operated for so long that not a lot of our policies haven't shifted to reflect the new demands of the mission of workforce development. So we do have some work to do. There's different examples, but the bottom line is we need to really increase our capacity and our intentional efforts to create completers, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get people completed the program. And then finding and serving the opportunity youth in our region. that is a challenge. I think we need to do more in looking inwards. Dr. Folger and I have talked frequently about the adult ed program making a pivot towards 712 so that we have opportunity youth escaping our district who are going on and not going to college and may not be getting a job. So in San Diego County, there are 45,000 kids out there, 18 to 24, who don't have a college, aren't in college, and do not have a job. In South San Diego, that number is going to be significant as well. In Chula Vista, National City, or South Bay. So we need to be more intentional. Instead of waiting for people to find our program and drift into it, we need to be grabbing them before we let them go. So expect to see work on that effort over the next year in terms of capturing Sweetwater's youth. Next, I just want to address, you may have heard or seen a white paper. This is a document that I guess captures some of the things I'm talking about tonight in more detail and a little more depth, I think. It's a document you can look at. It's a warts and all, just that's how I am. It's transparent. It is what it is. This is who we are, and where we are right now. It's a time snapshot document of here's the division, here's the struggles that we're facing, here's some of the things we need to do, and here's how we can start attacking the problems. I just bring it up because I know it's been out there and around and drifting publicly. So I will make it a formal paper and take the draft status off it once I get some actuals. But it does talk about our financial situation and some recommendations for addressing that. And I'll share that with you once it's formal status. Recent action steps, just some things that we've been doing over the last few months to try to make the transition and improve the program for our students. Division-wide work on the mission, vision, and beliefs. And my apologies if you've got a typo or two in this. I sent the draft on mistake. Division-wide work on the mission, vision, and beliefs. I'd like to thank Amy, who is not. No, is Amy here? She left. Good for her. She did a wonderful job. Came out here to the adult division and supported all of our staff, certificated, classified. I'd like to thank President Hall for making an appearance too and helping us kick that off. It was an important day. Our teachers need the opportunity to be heard, and they really need the opportunity to contribute to something great. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to make it collaborative and collective and making every effort to do so. And our teachers are stepping up, and I see them doing the work, and it's impressive. Division-wide data analysis and planning. So we'll be doing more and more data analysis in our division. To be results-oriented, you need to know what results you're getting, right? So you can impact them. Collaborative efforts to overhaul our orientation and testing practices with emphasis on student goal development. So that's we want to be way more intentional about getting students on a pathway and getting them personal and academic and career goals so that they're saying what they want from our program, what they want for their lives. So it's being more intentional for the student, and then we can be more intentional as well. Then we have a Sweetwater Veterans Alliance. This is born out of some of the struggles we're having with our Veterans GI Bill program. We are working with our veterans in a leadership group. We've had community forums. We've had a leadership meeting where they developed what the leadership team would look like. And then we've had elections where each school elected a few veterans to serve and represent them on a committee. And we've done a lot of work around trying to say, what should our program look like? What are some of the things, the struggles that you've had? And because of that, we've really been able to find ways to improve our services to veterans. And so they've been a part of it, their voices out front, and they've helped us make decisions that support the program. One of the things we'll be doing over the next year is an aggressive letter writing campaign and political outreach together. So it will be Sweetwater and the veterans together, working together to have a common message to our legislature and to the community on some of the things that we can do to support them and to support them being in our program instead of suspending them out of our program the way things are going right now. One thing I'm hoping is that we can have community service recognized at the state level and at the VA level. So instead of saying getting a job, Well, if our 97% of our veteran students last year did not earn a job, and many of those 97% weren't trying. It wasn't a failure of the program. It was just the circumstances of the demographic. But they have been called to serve in their life, and they have expressed willingness to me clearly and repeatedly that if we can get that kind of thing happening, maybe a volunteer effort going on in our community, and we start documenting that, then maybe we can work on the VA and AEBG and the state and the feds to honor that work as being work and meaningful work for our community, and not punish our division or our program for it, and allow that group, instead of having it be the way it is right now, let's make it productive for the community. So we're working together with our veteran students to try to make that happen. We also have made recommendations to to Assistant Superintendent Fulcher, and it's navigating through the channels of how can we make our high school graduation diploma requirements more in line with AEBG and more in line with the lives of adults. So you may not have heard of some of those things, but we came together as a division and really looked at it and analyzed it, and we've made our recommendations. And also initiating dialogue with key Sweetwater partners to capture those opportunity youth. We want to capture the youth before they escape. That's when we need to capture them, before they decide they don't want to go to school anymore. And those are daunting challenges that we're facing, and there's a lot. Every day is busy. I can promise you that. Every day is busy. We have a lot to do. But I know in time that we're going to get to where we want to be as a division. And we have the assets. That's how I know. We have the assets. We have everything we need to make it happen. We've got the partners. We've got South County Economic Development Council. We have Southwestern College. We have Sweetwater, the 712. We also have the will of the students that I see, the people, the things that they overcome, the challenges that they overcome in their lives. And I know you've all been to our graduation. You've heard their stories. The things that they overcome to just get that piece of paper is overwhelming, right? The will of our students is impressive. And the dedication of our teachers is unparalleled in terms of, there's a love in our teachers for the program, for their students, for their students' lives. You've seen it. You've interacted with our teachers. You know it. I can only shine a light on it and say thank you to them, because they're just difference makers for our community. They love our students. They love our program. Last but not least, I just wanted to, this slide, actually, if you could, I don't know if you can click the title. That's a YouTube video, or I can just go to the next one. And this is just a quick highlight on the adult program.
Nice.
Very good.
And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? Any comments? Mr. Solis?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I had a question with regards to the multi-year projection shortfall over 5 years. So I know it's not an average of $2 million a year, but because then we know it increases more as time goes by. But with this year's COLA, what are we looking at as a shortfall for this next coming
For
year?
next year?
Mm-hmm.
With this year's COLA, it gets complicated because of the situations with indirect costs. What we've done, and correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, I believe, is we are charging indirect costs, but then we are recognizing and booking the indirect costs, and then that's rolling over. And I think this year we're going to come up around $1 million, approximately $1 million short. And I would think next year, with the adjustment of the COLA, but with the increasing cost and some of the personnel adjustments that we're making, it would be somewhere around that, in the ballpark of that same amount. I don't have an exact figure, but in that ballpark.
That helps. Thank you. And with regards to the vets, do we like create like pamphlets or anything to put like at VFW halls and all that to try to attract veterans that?
We don't. They actually, we haven't had to advertise to that population very much. They tell each other, and we actually have to. This year we had a lottery for next year's classes, because if we have too many veteran students in any class, that class also gets suspended for being too veteran heavy. Okay. So we have to be very careful with our enrollment. So we had to run a lottery this year. We had 667 or so sign up for the lottery, and we had spots for about 215. Okay. Wow. So, and we also are carrying over another about 150 because they're in a 2-semester program. So we're serving right now around 350, 365, I guess.
Wonderful.
And as a quick note, the lottery this way, the lottery became important because we noticed during the critical sign-in period for classes that there were a number of students to be who were 80-plus years old, waiting overnight to sign up for classes. So we had to make some adjustments when we saw that happening. And another reason San Diego is so attractive is because a number of our military veterans retire here. Mm-hmm. So we have probably more veterans in this region than any other place in California who want to sign up for courses and classes. Okay. And was just reminded of another way to advertise, and that's through our Target River campaign that Dr. Janney and Manny Rubio can certainly talk more about, but that's another possibility.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, the other one was with between 18 and 26, with all the social media, but putting stuff out there.
Yes.
So they can see it.
Yes, we're right now we're overhauling our advertising. We used to send out a brochure, and it was a pretty very text-dense book. The positive is it had all the information. Mm-hmm. The drawback is it was extremely expensive. It was about $30,000 to send it each semester. Mm-hmm. So we stopped doing that. We went to a postcard that had a QR code so people could get right into our website, and it listed the programs, but there's a feeling in the division that that's not enough information for people. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to try to do something that's in between the two, hybrid, and try to find that exact spot. But yes, we are on Twitter and it's Facebook, and trying to get the digital footprint out there too.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do and your staff.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Segura or Mr. Pike? No? Mr. Tarantino?
Dr. Burke, I want to thank you for being proactive. You've done an awful lot in 15 months, and this was very helpful, your presentation tonight. In terms of the recommendations to overhaul the diploma program.
Yes, sir.
Would those final decisions be coming to us for action, or is that something that is done internally with your division, with Dr. Fulcher and Dr. Janney?
I think we've made 3 recommendations. 2 of them, to me, seem very much internal, and then the other one, I think, may incorporate a larger conversation, perhaps. But I don't know if it's at the board level or just the cabinet level.
Okay. And there's a lot of consternation about that. I'm sure we've all heard that. And I just have to go on record saying that many years ago, when the learning centers came online, the same kinds of consternations were brought forward in terms of there's going to be an exodus from the high school program to the learning centers because it's independent study, it's 2 hours, and all of the other things. And kind of, I'm hearing the same thing about what's going to happen if the number of credits are tweaked in order to get the diploma. And it didn't happen with the learning centers, and I have a feeling it's not going to happen with the adult school program as well. First of all, yes, you have to be 18, and students want to graduate with their classmates. They don't want to go someplace else. They want to stay in the comprehensive high school and graduate. So I just want to go on record saying that I'm not buying into all of the fear mongering that's going on in terms of the change in the graduation requirements. I just have one more comment, and that is, in terms of bridging the 712, the seniors to the adult program, have you thought of having a booth or a table at the college and career fairs that we have throughout the district and at different sites? That might be something that, I don't think it's on a lot of students' radar, and basically because it wasn't a priority back in the day, and now it is a priority that we have that seamless transition if students are so inclined. So I just...
Yeah, we attended the one at Chula Vista High, but I'd like to be present at all of them, or somebody from our staff. Yeah, we need to be at all of those events. But yeah, this year we started making some inroads on that. But I think in general we need to be more aggressively targeting the 712 program and intertwining a lot of our efforts here.
Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, when you talk about the 712 program, there are limits to how old the person has to be in order to enroll in adult ed. Isn't that correct? Because it seems like that's what we learned.
Yes.
There isn't even really, brought that forward to legislators, maybe trying to work on that age requirement, and I didn't feel that there was much reception to that. So what do you mean by intertwining? Just because you're gonna try to capture the kids that are leaving without a future?
Yes. So it's 18 is the age. 18 is the age, and yeah, I agree. Going back to your point, I agree 100% that I don't think any student that's is on track to graduate is going to leave their program to come to us. They want their prom, they want their Disney night, they want their all that stuff, but they want their Hilltop High diploma, their Southwest High School diploma, not an adult school diploma. Typically, a senior in high school. But for 712, we can capture the students, for the students who we know are not going to be on track, we should be aggressively reaching out to them and letting them know we're here and we are the alternative for you. You're not on track. You moved here in 10th grade from Brazil, and you came in spring of 10th grade. You're probably not going to get enough credits to graduate on time by senior year spring. Chances are you won't, especially if you're low level of English to start, right? If you CELT 1 or whatever. You're probably not going to make it. That person needs a plan And I think we can be a part of that plan so that they know from the get-go that they can come away with a diploma, a high school diploma, or a HiSET, or a GED, we're there talking to them about it, and counselors are talking to them about it, and have our literature present as a part of the conversation.
Thank you. I also wanted to say that somebody I know in my community, my own personal community, her husband recently enrolled in a citizenship course at National City Middle.
Nice.
So he goes up to National City, and is so excited. And I mean, he's been living in the States for, I don't know, a lifetime. So it's quite amazing, and you are able to meet the needs of all different levels of people and backgrounds. So I think that's really wonderful.
Our citizenship classes are near approaching 100% success rates. So I wish him well.
He's very excited.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you, and thanks to your staff and teachers and principals as well.
Yeah, I feel like I needed more of a marching band or somebody just singing their praises. I didn't have enough juice tonight. I'm a little tired.
Yeah, I can relate. So thank you very much.
Trying to set that 3 a.m. record here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So now we'll go on to our next item, which is M4, pulled by the public.
Yes, it was pulled by Mr. Marinovich, but he left.
All right.
So I have no further speakers.
All right. So now we're on to N1 and Mr. Tarantino.
Oh, we need a vote on M4, please.
Huh?
We need a vote on M4.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Thank you for that correction. Yeah, I was just testing. So do I have a motion to approve M4?
So, go ahead.
I'd like to be the motioner.
Mr. Pike.
Mr. Pike, you
I'll
made
second
a
it.
motion, and Mr. Solis made the second. So may I have the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. So now we're on to N1 with Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah, I just had an observation. I know to be part of standard operating procedures to just ensure that people, a random sample that people are getting our notices to submit bids.
So good evening, Board of Trustees, and President Hall, Superintendent Danny, Mr. Tarantino. Speaking with our purchasing manager, yes, it's a procedure that's not precluded. However, I think probably some of the optics of only contacting 12 out of the 52 that were sent emails to may not look great. And so my suggestion to him was if he's going to confirm emails, that he needs to confirm with all 50. Whoever was sent an email should also get a follow-up phone call.
That's even better, but, thank you, okay. Thanks, that's all
Well, it might sound good, but it might be a little bit horrible sometimes, depending on what they've got on their plate. So I think to make that a standard practice, to do a sampling now and then, I think is reasonable, but to have it done every time, I think is unreasonable for staff. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
Well, there have been some instances where people did not receive notification, and so I just think it's a...
Well, I think what they have to do is make sure that they have their appropriate address on file. I think sometimes there's multiple, and it's the method on which they pull the addresses to send those notices to. So if they're sending it to a billing location or a payment location, that may not be the appropriate location to send a bid notice to. And I think that's where there may be an opportunity to refine the system.
I think part of the purpose was also to, excuse me, to confirm some emails that seem to be outdated as well.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'll entertain a motion to approve, and if there are no further questions or comments on N1, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Solis, a second by Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes?
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. That's it. Now we're on to board comment. Who do we start with tonight? Mr. Solis?
Thank you, President Hall. I just wanted to say it was a pleasure to be at the employee recognition. That was a wonderful event. It's always nice to see how long our teachers stay and all the great work that they do. And also I want to congratulate Stephanie Lopez from Sweetwater for her vehicle. Yeah, so great job, and to all the students that are going off to college. Okay, so thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. Mr. Segura?
Sure. I was talking to Trustee Solis a little earlier, and he mentioned that I think the last time we were here was when we got sworn in. Right?
Yeah, that's
Like
what I
4
think.
years ago or 3 years ago, or
Have we been back since? I don't know.
I don't know if we've been back here. I know it's been redone since then, and it's beautiful. Really like it.
Yeah, almost 4 years ago.
Yeah, can you mention that? But yeah, that, and I was hopefully going to try to catch Mr. Romero, Principal Romero, and remind him my daughter scored the winning goal to beat his team here this year. He took some really nice pictures, though. I wanted to thank him for that. Was really what I wanted to do. I haven't attended too many district events. I've been out of state or out of San Diego with work, so I've been super busy, and I'm glad I'm here, and that we have a lot of trustees that are attending those, and I hope to get back in the loop. Things are kind of settling down, so I hope to get back and engage in some of the activities. And then I actually went to my daughter. She graduated from Humboldt State, who was a graduate of Hilltop, so she graduated on Saturday. Yes, thank you. And it was really awesome, and so proud of her. And she's got accepted. She's been accepted into their counseling grad program there as well. So she'll be there for another couple of years, and she's doing just fantastic. And prior to that, I had went to Alaska. That's where I was at for a week. So that was an adventure. Took the kids, and they did all their homework, allegedly. I think my wife was checking on that. But that was quite an experience, and I can tell you from experience that it's possible to gain weight just by eating crab. I didn't think that could happen, but I don't know if it was all the butter I put on it, but that's
Yeah, it's got to be butter.
that was something else, and it's really a beautiful place. And I know, you know what I saw on Southwestern's, they're doing their 50th anniversary. I think it's their 50th anniversary. Like they're trying to get everybody who's graduated in the last 50 years a picture on their Twitter. Where? Southwestern College. And I saw, the reason I noticed something, if you looked at the picture, and I have it on my phone, but I won't look while we're here, and it said the future site, so it was before the school was built at Southwestern College, and if you look at the picture, it says Sweetwater Community College District or something of that nature. And I'm like, wow, I wonder how that all...
It might have been
What is the answer to that?
It probably didn't separate out from the Sweetwater Union High School district.
Yeah,
until
so
like
that's
the
what I was
70s.
bringing it up to maybe somebody would know.
Yeah, the answer is that Joe Rinden was the superintendent at the time, and it was his vision to have the school out there, and he was the superintendent president of the college for like 1 year for $1 or a short time
So
until
that
they got the
explains-
first.
That is awesome. I was fascinated by that and our link. And I know I'm going to try to make a meeting tomorrow. I think some Olympian high school students will be touring our training center, so I'm hoping to make that tomorrow. And I know the training center was I want to say they were maybe here, Paula, at giving a presentation to one of the classes. So
Right.
in the last few weeks, and like
You're right. I think I heard.
and as Dr. Janney said, there were 7 of the 40 electrician apprentices that we did take in. 7 of them, and I verified by names, have graduated from Sweetwater. So, and maybe in the last year or two, or I think one actually was a came out of the adult ed, so I was really happy to see that. So those are really life-changing careers, and with the amount of construction that there's going to be more apprentices taken. So I was really happy to see that, and really advocating as much as I possibly can to help. So that's the end of my report, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pike.
Yeah, first, I'd also like to thank, sorry, I got a bad cold, people at Southwest, because this place really looks nice. And I remember when we came in here, it was in pretty dire straits. So thank you. It looks awesome. Second thing is I, too, attended the employee recognition, and it was really nice to see our people getting awards. They were very happy. They pretended like they weren't, but they were very happy to go up there, especially Jeff Wilderson getting his award. That made me laugh. It was very nice. Third thing is myself and Dr. Janning, we were at the Aerospace Museum to watch Palomar High get their presentation for being one of the best schools in the state, which is very impressive considering we hardly hear about what's going on over there, but I think we're going to start to. We got a new regime, and everybody seems to be very happy. Talked to the teachers there, and they were just really happy to get started for next year. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was tomorrow I'm going to be going to Cal Spark High for parents recognition. So that ought to be interesting. I'm going to have to talk with Anna Marie over there and find out exactly what we're going to be doing, but other than that, it should be fun. So thank you, and I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Tarantino?
Yes, I'd like to thank the conference committee, the Makaisa Conference Committee, who put together the Filipino conference last Saturday at Olympian High School. These kinds of events, first and foremost, I think they really help students find out who they are in terms of their culture, their backgrounds, and then also gives them the opportunity to explore their dreams in terms of what they want to do after high school. And so kudos to the people who work so hard to put these events together for the students. While I was on the campus of Olympian, I noticed that the shade covers are finally in at East Hills Academy. So I wanted to thank Dr. Aguirre and his team for seeing that project through. I know it's had a lot of stumbling blocks, but they really look good. The colors look good, and I think the students will really appreciate it. And then last of all, I had the opportunity to attend Montgomery Middle's second annual art exhibition with Mr. Pike. And thanks to art teacher Jessica Austin for the time that she invested in showcasing the students' artwork. And some of the artwork is just truly amazing in terms of what these 7th and 8th graders can do. And she is, from what I understand, she has built the program and now has an advanced art program, whereas it was kind of floundering before she got there. So kudos to her and to the students who make that happen. And that's all I have, President Hall.
Thank you. I was out and about over the last couple weeks as well, and I was able to go to first I think I spoke to it about it last time, but I was going to mention it again. I got to find the right folder here. Here it is. The Conference in Collaborative Learning of Sweetwater Union High School District presents Restore First Relationships Matter, which happened at the end of April here at Southwest High. And it was really, I think that it was a testimony to the fact that teachers and staff here are not just going through the motions. They really are investing in students and in each other to make sure that they resolve issues or learn new ability to self-monitor and deal with life in a positive way. So it was really a magnificent day for not only the teachers, because they had breakout sessions for just teachers, and they had breakout sessions that were for just students, and then they had combined workshops that was really wonderful. And I wanted to thank Mariana Gomez for her leadership in that effort, and Dr. Fulcher, of course, you behind the scenes, I'm sure, had no small part in that effort. And then I went to the Honoring Our Own Assembly or award ceremony where Amy Hunt and what's her name? Molly Ravenscroft were honorees, and we stood up there with them. But that was fun, and Dr. Fulcher was really in a unique moment, really giving her a lot of appreciation as he stood next to her, and her mother, who was very appreciative of his comments. So that was fun, and they were really cute. And Amy Hunt's husband was there to support her. It was nice to meet him before he robs her from the district and takes her away from us, which I'm not sure I like him anymore, but he was nice that night. But that was a really special event. And also, was it Tim or Tom? Teagle. Tom Teagle was who was a prior teacher and principal here at this district, and he was recognized as an AXA leader. So that was really special because we got to stand up with him too. So that was fun. And I went to the, of course, the employee recognition, where I noticed a lot of names that were very familiar to me as my career or my years as a parent here at Sweetwater. I know many of these teachers from a few years back, and I see that they've earned some recognition for their years of service, and unfortunately a few of them are on their way to a new adventure as retirees. So I want to congratulate them. Then I went to the Biliteracy Awards recognition, where our TOSA, the woman who spoke here tonight, Rebecca Robinson, was recognized as the TOSA for biliteracy, and it was really a nice event. And along with her was, what's the guy's name? The parent of the year. The parent was recognized from, he's a parent at Chula Vista High, and he's very involved in the programs and on the DAC and the DPAC and the DLAC, and Ms. Peralta said he does everything. He and his wife do a lot, and they bring their little baby along with them everywhere. And if I had my phone out, I'd look up the name because I can't quite remember it. But so I went to that, and I enjoyed that. It was a nice ceremony. And of course, I joined Dr. Janney. Were you at the luncheon? No, the CT for the Palomar High recognition, where they earned and their principal got recognized as the principal of the county for the continuing ed program. And I must say that Palomar High has done some really good things for students there, including their pumpkin smash, which was really fun, was the best thing. And the last, of course, I went to over the weekend. I started off my Saturday with the Sweetwater Student Conference and Showcase on Issues of Personal, Local, and Global Significance, which is a mouthful. But they really had a great event. They started off with the Equity Director at San Diego State. I forgot his name. And he started off with a really good talk on being a global citizen and not thinking about what kind of job you want, but what do you want to change in the world. When you think about what are you passionate about and what kind of change you want to make in the world, it'll lead you to the right job. That's what he was talking about to students, and to think about it in a global way. And then they had breakout sessions also. Many of those sessions were student-led. It was pretty amazing, the subjects that they were presenting to their fellow students and to other educational leaders. There were also teachers from San Diego State. One of the people from San Diego State that presented, I stopped into their workshop, was on bias and how you're naturally biased by some of the things that happen and the patterns that your brain makes, but how that affects in the classroom. It was really, really, I think, good work, and I understand he's been working with our district in a capacity in that way to help with schools and teachers and students learn about how they can kind of repattern their brain or stop and think, is that really the right answer, or is that really the right reaction? I think that's good work to have and very interesting. And so I wound up the day going over the MyGAISA conference, and it was Southwest High's culinary arts program that did all the food for the VIPs and all the teachers that were presenting and part of that group, and they had some magnificent stuff in there. It was really, their cake was magnificent. They had all these Filipino desserts that they followed the recipes on, but they also had traditional Filipino food for their luncheon. It was really nice, very well done. And then the students ate. They were catered by Halo Halo. I guess that's a vendor in Chula Vista. But the coordinator of that, the committee lead on that program, was Valerie Ruiz, who is also a special ed TOSA here at the district, and she's the one that coordinates the unified games. So she wanted me to bring a message back to the board of her appreciation for how the district is supportive of the program, and we've really helped them grow that unified game program. And how many, I think she's only got 2 schools that are still working their way towards participating, but they haven't quite gotten to where they can do it yet. But all of our schools except for 2 is a pretty good record, because we know that really does help students engage with other people that they may never engage with in a way that will only create positive experiences for the future. So with that said, I know that it's been a long night somewhat, but I thank you, Dr. Janney, for your leadership. I thank your cabinet members for theirs, and with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
So one program I left at home was the one with the biliteracy one where the parent was. I had 2 of them. I caught 2 of them. Just like I had 2 of the